call the meeting of the Townsend Finance Committee to order at 6:02 p.m. And could I have roll call for attendance, please?
Dave Walker present. Sam Grant present.
Mary Jane Churchville present.
Gerald Mazeika present.
Tara Hofstas present.
Okay, Don Hayes present. With that, there's 6 members present. We have a quorum. We are good to go. This meeting is being recorded. It will be played back on Channel 9 and will be available on the Townsend YouTube channel. At this point, I do see other people on the Zoom. Is anybody recording this meeting also? Or just TCAM? No one being heard. There are no others recording the meeting. Additions or deletions at this point, I have no additions or deletions at this time. Nothing. Yeah. Moving into the work session, I had reviewing of the minutes, and we had 3 meetings worth in here: February 18th, 20th, and 27th. Were there any changes required?
I think it was a typo. Was there a typo? I think it said busy BUSYNESS instead of BUSI. I can't remember where. Business?
Okay.
Oh, business.
Okay.
Okay.
Hang on.
Busyness is good enough.
Can we do all 3 at the same time?
We can, but if there's one where we need a correction.
Where's my email?
The last meeting was the 27th.
And you thought it was BUIS?
I thought it was BUSY.
BUSY,
Busyness.
busyness.
Well, look at it.
Okay, we did not find it on the 27th.
All right, well, maybe.
Don't worry about spelling.
Yeah, let's not, all right, yeah, let's not.
Just.
Thank you.
No, we should get it. I don't see it on the 20th.
Correct spelling is only announcing. Go back 100 years, it's different. Another 100 is different again.
Absolutely.
So I'm not really concerned about.
Oh, we don't read hieroglyphics anymore, so it's not necessary.
I think, yeah, I can't find it, so I'm sorry, I retract that.
Okay.
No,
Yeah, I'm looking and I can't.
Yeah, I did searches for the,
Oh, you put it in
I
and you didn't see
put
it,
BUSY
and it didn't pop up.
on any of the.
Maybe it was another minute I was reading.
Maybe it's one of the newer ones.
Oh God, maybe it's my job. I don't know, but.
Okay.
We're not gonna have a problem, are we?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Okay, Audio's off, okay.
It's like feedback on the can.
yeah, sorry, it kind of like, as I scraped across on the mouse, it turned the
Oh,
microphone back on again.
okay,
We'll keep on trying to hide that, okay.
all right, I'm
So-
sorry, I guess, yeah.
If there were no changes suggested, then
Yeah.
a motion to accept the minutes for February 18th, 20th, and 27th.
I'll make that motion.
Second,
Okay, we had a motion to approve the minutes and a second. Any further discussion? None being heard, roll call. Vote.
Carol Hofstas, yes.
Gerald Mazeika, yes.
Mary Jane Churchville, yes.
Sam Grant, yes. Dave Walker, yes.
Don Hayes, yes, unanimous. The minutes have been accepted and can be voted to.
Yes, I have ordered them all.
Okay,
Is that it?
Everyone.
We don't have to do this anymore?
no, we
No,
still have
no.
March. It's
Yeah,
kind of like,
March.
and then we'll have March.
But I hadn't just sent, I didn't know I had to send them to the town clerk.
After
Oh,
we approve them.
Oh.
So I sent her all of last year's. Yes.
Okay.
Keep her busy.
She has them all.
Keep her busy for another week. Yeah, I'm sure she'll be busy. Okay, I had put correspondence on here. The only thing we had in there is what I had sent out for meeting request joint with the board of selectmen for next Wednesday, April 9th at 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock or 7?
It said seven.
Okay,
The email said 7.
Yeah.
Yeah.
sorry, it says schedule a joint meeting with the board, April 16th, budget forum is 7 o'clock.
No,
That's
but
April.
you said 7 o'clock for the
In the-
Wednesday meeting,
Then I,
but you really wanted it to be 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
Okay,
What meeting, the joint meeting with the board of
joint
selectmen?
meeting with the board
Is
of
it 6
selectmen.
o'clock, not 7?
On the 9th.
So it's at 7.
It's at 6
Six
It's
on
at
the
6.
9th.
on the ninth.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay,
At 6, 9,
Okay,
6 to 9.
At 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock.
on the ninth.
And we have, most members will be there, so we'll have a quorum.
I'll just be a little late or
Okay,
something,
okay.
maybe.
Yeah, it will be a joint meeting. I think we discussed on the agenda, it would look like the joint meeting would start at 6:15.
I got a question.
Yeah,
That's 7th member, that person exist or is it an empty slot?
it is not an empty slot right now, it's Andrea Wood.
Oh, okay, yeah, definitely.
I have
She's on
not,
hiatus and I wouldn't
yeah.
there.
no, it's kind of like, but
Wanted back.
Mm.
That would happen.
I've been reaching out by text, but haven't heard anything, so.
So when's the joint meeting gonna be like?
well, so what were they saying last night about the bag thing that they didn't like?
They said that I'll just pull it up so you can hear it yourself. How about that? Then it will.
I'm just curious what
Well,
they,
they say that there's a point of diminishing returns. If you increase the price of the bag, that eventually people will bail
Yeah.
ship.
Yeah.
And it's a compounding thing, according to Veronica.
Right.
It's a compounding, I don't understand that part because I'd rather compound a $4 bag and get rid of it when the trash goes than to have my override and have a tax for the rest of my life
Right.
go up and up. But she used the word compound, so I'm using that. They clearly didn't like that.
Okay, we all concur with that opinion,
Good for her, it's her opinion.
but what I'm
Those are the
trying,
places, it's kind of like, and as we had the discussion last week, that we looked at it from the revenue side only. We were looking at one side of an equation, which was increasing the revenue by going up to $6 a bag.
But it wasn't that the goal is to find more money?
It is, but as we do that, the offset is, at what point does it become a
Well-
price that's too high,
Well-
people will go private, and we end up lowering our revenue.
Now, let me ask you this. So they were $3.75, the bags?
yeah,
The big one.
And now they're gonna go to $6?
Well, that was
the suggestion.
that was the suggestion.
Yeah.
based-
That's a lot of
Based
money.
on revenue.
I agree, that's $30 for a package of 5. 5 bags should last a normal family 1 month. You can go out and get your own private service for over $40. We don't know exactly what that is, and that's gonna escalate too. We also put it on just a flat minimum fee. We pay individually for each ton that we dump, the tipping fee.
When the Board of Health presented they presented 2 possible contracts.
Okay,
One was we pay, I think, $700,000 or $800,000 and covers everything.
right.
One was you pay a base $300,000 fee and then you pay a tipping fee for tonnage,
Okay.
right?
Okay, so I did bring up the contract.
When we ran some numbers based on
Mhm.
the tonnage that we were seeing after we went to the bags, paying the tipping fee is gonna cost less than paying $700,000 or $800,000 flat. And so it just seems like that we should do that, and if we increase the price of the bag some, we should be able to cover the entire trash cost with the
And
bag.
she's probably right, people are gonna slowly go down and not that, but then we're only paying for the people who put their bags into the thing, the dumping fee, the tipping fee.
Right, the tipping, so that if people opt out, the tipping fee is gonna go down too.
But well, don't you think that that's a decision that people should make and
Yeah.
not the Board of Selectmen? Don't you think that the people should be presented with the option and then they can vote on it?
The Board
Don't
of
be
Selectmen,
too
what I was told when this whole thing started last year, was that Board of Selectmen can put a fee on anything they want to.
No, I understand that, but I'm talking about letting the people make a decision. Where did that? when did
They
that
make a
start
decision
happening?
whether they buy the bags or they get their own service. That is their personal decision. I can definitely keep down to a maximum of $30 a month, if not less, for me, because we usually, under normal circumstances, get 2 bags out a month.
Right,
I mean, it was every other week, we put 1 bag out. That's not all the time.
I get it.
But that's because we know how to, one, separate all our recycling.
How much longer are we gonna talk about trash? I mean, this has been going on since last year.
Yeah.
And nobody seems to have an answer. Nobody seems to have a solution. We, the FinCom,
Mhm.
brought our recommendation.
We did.
And I think we should stick by it. And I
Oh.
think that, for them to, it's not a dialogue situation. They tell us what they want and we make a recommendation. We're not asking for their advice.
Maybe what we should do is take a look at it and look at the whole and
But we did.
have that conversation.
Yeah,
We recommended, and so far in the budget, I don't think it has changed from where we are. So if we want to continue to recommend the value increase, do we want to do a deeper dive into trash? And so we look at what the returns.
Where's the budget so we can see?
Well, I mean, yeah,
We also
Well,
mentioned,
that's my fault.
we also mentioned that, yes, the fee could go up from there, but the fee can go down from there too.
Right.
Because the fee will be based on a history of how much the town is paying for the trash, which is the straight services contract plus the tipping fee. If we end up compacting our trash properly, we should, as a community, be able to bring it down. If one of us decides, I don't like it, they are more than welcome to vote by not buying the bag and calling up Charles or Harvey and Harvey or whoever and get their own trash service for themselves, and they can, in other words, it's free to opt out.
Right.
It costs you $30 a month to stay in.
Right.
If you have that much trash, that you need more than, 5 bags a month, that's basically on average, 4 weeks of trash plus an extra for when you really have a party or something.
Or if you have a baby with dirty diapers, you might have a lot of trash.
but how
Yeah,
much
there-
time are we gonna spend on this trash?
So, I don't know, we said what we were gonna do, but the budget hasn't changed, so I don't know what more we can say about trash that we haven't already said.
So they're gonna have to change after the, election and the town votes down the override.
But that's the other thing, they told us they were gonna have a separate budget for that, and we haven't seen that yet either.
We haven't seen it.
Can I ask a question on the
Yeah.
override? Because now it says, assess an additional $625 in real estate and personal property taxes for the purposes of funding the operating budget of the town and the public schools. So what was the $625 that was voted for the schools at the last election? What are we paying for the schools again?
They worded the question very vaguely.
Very poor.
But that's the public schools, so
Right.
what more money are we putting towards schools?
We are not putting any more money towards schools.
That's written poorly.
Well,
Right.
it's misleading, because
It-
now
Yes.
it
Well,
says,
yeah.
silly or
yes.
misleading, either one.
it
Let's
says,
go with
So
misleading, let's
again,
go with misleading.
Parity will have to come in the forum, to explain. When we look at it, if you want me to flip to the budget and get off track for a minute,
Okay.
I'll
All
go
right.
over to.
they should just not put public schools in there.
They
Well-
should just take it out.
They should take it out. Why can't they
Well, you
take it out?
can't, at this point, you can't take it out because the ballots.
Are printed.
Are printed.
You know
Well,
what?
then people are gonna be misled. It's
It-
Well, that's,
And you know what,
It's
this
not
is on
working for me.
purpose. I'm
There is
getting,
no transparency.
I'm getting closer and
There is not.
closer to calling the state for a state audit.
Well,
I'm getting
I would
closer and
recommend
closer.
that. I wouldn't be opposed.
I'm just so,
I wouldn't be opposed, Carol, if that's what you want to do. I mean, this is getting ridiculous. We got a ballot that's incorrect and we have no idea what the number is.
Again, when we vote the budget, it's the entire budget, so what has been.
Don, that's not what people understand though,
And that's what we have to explain. The budget hasn't changed. Once the column,
thing to do with the school budget.
What?
that, who are you?
identify yourself, please.
Is they here?
I don't know.
Ask
Come
them
from
again.
there.
Ask them again.
Who is it?
I don't know, they need to identify themselves.
And really was not clear either.
Are there any initials there that we can figure it out?
No.
Oh, darn.
Yeah.
Oh,
And because
okay.
I.
Is this the newest one or is this the one from the
So,
previous time?
This is the one from today. When it came in, I took
How many pages is it?
input. It's still about 800 lines. So it'll
How
be
many
about,
pages is it?
It's like this many pages.
No,
That's double
Who's
sided.
gonna answer my numbers?
well, I can't tell you if I page it differently, it's kind of like, but 800 lines, if you get 80 on a page, that's 10.
Okay,
But-
can you go to line 37? I want to see if they
What-
fixed this. I just want to see if they've corrected this. Because this is the one I knew was wrong.
Oh, this is the old one?
This is from
Last week.
the, if he has a newer one that just came in
Yeah.
from Nelson, line 37.
Wait, did you send it to us, Dawn?
Yeah.
I have not resent it. I sat down here, we got the meeting started.
I just want
will-
to see if they fixed this line.
So
So
did I get an email?
We didn't get it.
37,
I got an email with. I
it
don't know.
should say 64,396.
What line is it?
30,
37,
Which column should say that?
FY 25,
Okay.
What's the item?
it's the accounting salary,
so what?
the accountant salary.
Oh,
And so what was supposed to change?
Well, they had 52,837, the last one. But when remember when we looked at the budget, you know, all those worksheets?
Yeah.
Well, when I went back, because I thought this was low for what she said she was making now, so I went to the worksheet, and the worksheet for FY 25 said she was making 64,396. So that's why, and I didn't go through all of these, but that one figure was off, so that to me, that meant the whole thing's not right. So I wanted to know if they fixed that line to put what she's actually making today. Not what she was making, whatever she was making a year
Oh,
ago,
so you're saying that 52 F-35 is wrong?
is wrong.
Like $12,000.
But we're concerned, what, is FY 26 right?
No.
Dawn, can I talk to that? This is Veronica Kell.
yes, please.
When the budget goes in to the state and gets put into the accounting, it is done when the budget is accepted. And so the budget was accepted with her salary at 52,000. This was for FY 25.
Okay.
Pardon me?
I get that.
Okay, the MOU that raised her salary was done by Eric Slagle right before he left. And the budget had already gone into the state, and you have to use the state budget, the approved budget. You can't change that after the fact. And so that's why the number is not the number that she was actually getting from sometime in August forward. When this budget was put in, the number was in the 50s. So that's why. There's nothing wrong or underhanded. It's just the way it works.
Okay, but if we're going to be doing an FY 26 budget, and we're using numbers that are not,
The FY 26 budget is the 66 it's the 4% over the 64 that she was getting. So if you look in your budget book, the notebook, the numbers that Katie put in there should have been the correct 64 number that the 4% over was being based on.
It just makes it difficult when we're trying to look at numbers and they're not.
I know, but she did turn in the correct numbers when we asked for it. This column is based on what it was when the budget was accepted at town meeting for FY 25. It would mess up with the state if we changed it after the fact. We would have to go and have another budget vote.
But then why did it change?
Yeah.
It changed because she has a personal services contract, and the town administrator at the time, and I was not a selectman when this happened, but the town administrator at the time negotiated a different salary with her at before he left town. And that's why it changed. Also had to do with, and we talked about this in our joint meetings, with the fact that I should turn on my video, shouldn't I? Sorry. Also has to do with the fact that as we lessen Markham, who now has a different name, CBiz or something like that, the duties are changing. That's the way the contract worked. Now, there were no specific numbers put in that contract. That was pretty much, it's only been 2 years. She's in the third year of a 3-year contract. And the first year was set. Then there was the MOU that was in the late July, early August timeframe, must have been late July. And then the 4% for next year is not memorialized anywhere in writing at this point. So just know that.
Why isn't it?
It's a personnel matter.
Okay, so
if you go to your budget book, the number that's in there should be the number that Katie is actually getting.
yeah, that's the
Right, and the number for-
396.
And the
And
number
the-
for this year is 74,000, not
That was apparently a promise. I shouldn't talk too much about this, but it's not memorialized anywhere. What is memorialized is the 2% cost of living, the COLA, and the 2% step. So that's why it's in there at 66 at this point. It's possible because the CBiz Markham is going down. It's possible that, in the fall or when we do know what funds we have to work with, that we could, you want to treat your employees fairly. But at this point, the best we can hope for is the 4%. So that's why it's what it is. It isn't anything underhanded or non-transparent.
Okay, so how can you do proposed cuts based on those figures if they're not all?
We
I shouldn't-
aren't doing proposed cuts based on FY 25. We're looking at FY 26. And you guys are the FinCom. We did those joint meetings. You have the figures. They're in the budget book when each department head came forward, just like the stuff that was talked about last week with the lieutenant. It's all there.
Right, and we have been looking up, but this one is one that is different because there was information that we were not.
because the number in the budget book is 74,000, not 66,000.
For FY 26, yes, it is. But we could not find that memorialized anywhere. In other words, it's not written down in the contract. Now, if we have funds, it's possible that we will negotiate if we can. And we are certainly hoping we can keep the employee.
Right.
But the number that is in this budget is the number that went into the state. These numbers get turned in after the budget is approved at town meeting. Dawn, you know that, correct?
And then we make corrections as necessary, like we did in August of 23, when we took a lot of money out because it was opera money and we needed to change the budget because of the requirement.
Well,
that
doesn't the
it be
budget then
recurring.
get
But,
amended?
but the state budget doesn't change. What changes is the budget that you're working on in your Excel spreadsheet.
Okay,
This shows what the state expects to see.
okay, but let me just ask this. So how often, like, you have to live with the numbers for a year till the next time? I mean,
Unless you revote the budget in a town meeting. And this was not revoted in a town meeting. What was revoted in August were numbers around the schools, etc. I wasn't a selectman at that point. You were there, Dawn, so you know what. There were certain line items that were revoted in August. And those are the line items that would get set differently for the following year.
I just want to be clear. So, all right, you vote this, you send it to the state and they approve whatever. But during the course of the year, things happen. So
That's
people,
in the BVA. You see that in the BVA. If
Yeah,
you
but
look in the BVA, you will see that that line, it's not quite negative yet, I don't think, but it's more than the 75% that it should be now.
But all I'm saying is you never go back to the state to amend the figures and say,
Only if you have a vote at town meeting that changes the budget for the town for the year. That's my understanding. Do you have a different understanding, Dawn?
No, I mean, there are changes and things we do that don't get recorded with the state, but that's, covered.
Correct. And you
Covered with-
see that in the BVA.
Well, I was thinking of the municipal transfers at the end of a year, we actually end up changing the budget by moving dollars around.
That is correct. And that's an approved process with the state. There's a procedure for that and forms and the whole bit. Yeah.
so the BVA is going to have the correct amounts or I shouldn't say correct amount, but the actual
The
amount.
actual dollars that are being spent, yes. And at the end of the year, the expenses and the salaries, if they are, that's when you do the municipal transfers. If you are over for your entire budget in that department, and there's another department that is below the amount that they spent, you can do a municipal relief transfer, or there's another word as well, to even that out, to level it out, to show that you haven't gone over your total budget. So that's where that's rectified in like the last 6 weeks or so of the fiscal year and the very beginning of the next fiscal year. That's where all of that takes place.
So let me ask you this, Veronica. There's 3 contracts that the contract term expires 30 June. And
Those
Two
3
of them-
contracts are the police. What else?
no, this is Vadar Systems contract term expires 30 June 25.
That's
Doesn't
that's an annual expense in the accounting office or the treasurer's office. I'm not sure which one does Vadar, but Vadar is our accounting system. And just like for IT, for the email, Microsoft 365, the town pays annually for those software services.
So somebody's gonna capture whatever the renewal fee is for that.
It's more than likely one of the expenses that didn't get cut. when all the department heads were asked to cut their expenses.
Okay, then there's the virtual IT services contract expires 30 June. This contract will be renewed.
We did virtual IT in our meeting on Tuesday. We voted the renewal. That's for Guardian.
Okay, but it says not to exceed 10%, so I'm just making sure you're capturing these increases in the
Okay,
budget.
so Dawn, go to MIS. Yeah, they are captured.
Okay, that's.
We just did that one. All total, it was 122. I can pull out my papers and tell you exactly what we're paying Guardian.
It was a new contract, that's right, I saw it on the agenda
Okay.
for the
Yeah,
selectmen.
so that's what those are software services that the town uses to do business.
Well, yeah, I just want to make sure that in the MetroGov is a 3.5% increase. I just want to make sure that those contract increases are captured in the FY 26 budget.
Go to MetroGov, that's under the Board of Selectmen. And
Another-
we have not, I don't think we've signed the MetroGov yet,
Okay.
for next year.
But, okay, I just was concerned that somebody's
I think
thinking.
that's on the agenda for next time. We have to have a discussion about that.
Yep.
Because what we do there is dependent on what happens with one of the ballot
Right.
outcomes. So in any event,
Yeah, so there was no increase from FY 25 to FY 26 on that line.
correct. If I remember right, Dawn, I don't know if you were on that meeting or watched that meeting. What Nelson said was that instead of they reduced the number of hours a week because or a month. We haven't been using the contracted number of hours a month. So instead of increasing the overall, he just in the wording decreased the number of hours.
You're on the IT or the webmaster?
On the IT, it's a virtual IT with Guardian.
Okay, so we're getting less hours of.
Yes, because we haven't used them.
Right,
You know,
and
we were
don't-
contracted for greater hours. Everything with the IT has pretty evened out. 4 years ago, 3-4 years ago, that wasn't the case, but things now are pretty settled. And so Guardian was able to do that for us, to keep us in budget on that line item.
Just taking a look at and again, one of the things we were doing with the hours, there's no projects. When they didn't use the hours, they were putting them into a hold so that when we had projects, they would take them and use the unused hours and put it towards a project. So we have no projects we're planning this year for the IT.
You would know better than me, Dawn. You would probably know better than me on that. I haven't been involved with the projects over the past 1.5 to 2 years. So. And I don't know of any IT projects that are coming on board beyond what just needs to be done to complete what we've been doing in the town.
Okay, sorry, and I know it's been a while. Mary Jane, you had a question?
I don't remember what it was.
I'm sorry. We were.
No, it was a point of order. It was a point of order. Veronica was talking over Carol, she wasn't gonna finish the sentence.
Okay, and I was gonna say, while we're here and we were in the accountant area. I just want to point out one of the things that I was doing this afternoon was trying to identify the lines that are different from in this version of the file versus the last. We on line 44 in the budget, which is the accounting professional technical services on the audit. We had put in $30,000 because we didn't have a contract in place. We were estimating based on prior year what a new contract price would be. We have the engagement letter. It's gonna go to the Board of Selectmen for review and approval. And right now the audit line is going up to $35,000 for the annual audit, along with the single audits that we would expect for FY 26.
So that is line 44 is going to
It's going
35,000.
to 35,000. Yep. Again, back in this section, one of the things that we didn't review last week was a change. Another change, the Finance Committee Reserve Fund, line 30. We had tried to keep it at $50,000, and so we reduced it to $40,000 to take $10,000 off the budget.
Yeah,
Okay,
This year, we haven't used it yet. Prior years, we have used more than 50%. One year, we were overextended on it, but ended up not transferring a final $8,000. So we have used it, but in an effort to try to balance the budget and take $10,000 off the budget.
how does that fit over last year? You said we had we overextended one year, but we were at a lower rate at that time.
A lower total.
Each total budget was
Yeah.
lower, and it was raised to 50 because it
Right.
wasn't enough at the time.
And
Did it still come under the 40?
it would not have come over under the 40, but there would have been things we would not have recommended that we use that money for at that point. That was the year we had a lightning strike
Yeah.
on the police tower, and the pumps for the septic went out, and the ceiling in town hall fell. Unusual, but those are the pieces that we would be looking at, as we get requests for.
So we're
reserve
just
funds.
saying, this is all we got, you can't break anything else.
But that's gonna be it. It's kind of like
Yeah,
this fund is.
I was concerned about the usage,
Right.
over the long period of time.
Yeah.
And, before we start throwing out because this is a very important, a balloon in the hydraulic system that expands and it contracts because of other things that go bad on the way down the line.
Right. And this, we will be, reviewing those probably with a finer tooth comb than we have in the past.
Okay.
And whether we approve them, once that money is expended, it's not there, so we have always been cautious about when we use it in the year, during the year.
I don't remember one time it was asked for that we didn't go over with a fine tooth comb personally.
Right. Yep. I'll just scroll out and take a look at the numbers and things that changed. These other changes, the accounting, the audit went up by the $5,000. There was $50 taken out of Conservation Commission supplies and materials.
what line
Or
was that?
added to it, I'm sorry. So it's line 169.
Oh, you added 65.
We added $50 to that line. So
Oh, added plus
if I
50.
did my math right, it was 250, it is now 300.
300.
And I will get you these.
Okay,
Also in Conservation Commission, line 171, the dues and memberships went down by 100. So that went from 500 to 400.
400.
So the conservation total went down by 50. And that's why that line is in there.
Okay.
Planning board professional services.
What time is that?
191.
Okay,
I'm sorry, that's planning board.
yeah,
Professional services
services.
went down from 1,500 to 500, down 1,000.
Okay.
Line 215. Land use professional service.
Yeah.
Was it 1,800? It is now 1,000. Line 218, the land use training was taken from 1,800 to 750, which is a reduction of $1,050.
Mhm.
The
What are
land,
we dropping? I mean, what was the original 18 needed for in the first place? That it's not needed for anymore.
the land use budgets that were submitted
Yeah,
were from somebody that was preparing them and had done a job. She was getting ready to leave. I don't remember if you remember that.
you know,
That day, her last day with the town was the next day. New people have come in on the land use and other positions, and they've been asked to look at the budget, and they're coming in, and these are the areas that they said.
as long as they're getting
Because
what they
again,
need without getting too much.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And so the land use training is, as I mentioned, was, going to 750. Line 218, the land use dues and memberships was reduced $200 and went from 450 to 250.
What was that number?
219.
219.
Yeah.
And what was the number again?
Or
It was, it is now 250. It was 450. Savings in land use was $2,050. And with all those lines,
May I ask a question? What does land use do? The town's a couple hundred years old. You know, a long time ago, you know, the zonings were set into place and things were, you know, so theoretically, if it's not, you know, town park.
They do like, they go out and do reports, like, I can give you an example.
Yeah.
There's I think it's West Meadow Road, there's the solar array
Yeah,
there. Well, they're required to file a report every year because of the vegetation that they planted. And then, so the land use goes out there and make sure that they do what they're supposed to do. That's one example. Some of the stormwater management, they'll go out and make sure that the builders are conforming to their stormwater report and stuff.
that's,
when I was on their website this week, I also saw that the flood plan, FEMA flood plan is probably on that's where it found it. So, and again, this changes this year too. New flood plans are coming.
Yeah, because there was a little development on North End Road, of maybe 4 or 5, 6 houses. Campbell Farm. So Campbell Farm, they're required to have a stormwater plan thing. So the land use people go up there and they make sure that it's actually working and that it's all built according to how it's supposed to be done.
Yeah.
So they do.
in other words, they're responsible for looking after past past devices installed somewhere having to do with how the land is used and is it being used properly, as it's supposed to be, like you said, the drainage basins are where they need to be.
There's this thing, and I only know this stuff because I worked in doing files and stuff for a while in, there's compliance certificates. So until they get their compliance certificate, the land use office has to kind of monitor it.
Mhm.
And I think once they get that certificate of compliance, it's done.
And file there, so, yeah.
Thank you very much.
That's our experience with land use. Okay, another change was, fire EMS line 341, the replacement equipment was at 20,000 and it came down to 15,000.
Is it, you said line 351?
341.
341.
Yep.
341. Okay, was it
It
20,000?
was at 20,000 and it's now
Okay, now what?
15,000.
Is it what?
15,000. And when I send it out, I'll send the file with the work I did to identify these. And in the public safety, that was the only line, so there's the public safety total decreases by 5,000 also. Highway energy line 519. And maybe I looked up a wrong value, but it's at 22,680 now, and I believe it somewhere I had it at 20,000, so I maybe had a wrong number.
The last,
Or it was
the last printout you gave us from last time, it said it was changed to 20,000.
and now it's back into the 22,000.
Oh, it's back up to 22,680.
Yeah, so that's why I brought in the numbers from the last one we looked at.
Okay.
519.
519.
Yeah,
Who was that?
519.
519 highway energy.
So you put it back,
It's back. I didn't put it back, but it was put back to the 22,680. So,
And what was that for?
that's the energy, that's, heat and electric.
yeah. That's not the proposed cut.
No, I identified differences from the version we looked at
Okay.
last week to the version
Yeah.
we looked at this week.
Okay,
And so last week it was at 20,000. Now it's back to 22,000.
22,680. Okay.
So it's back where it was.
Okay.
The line 521 for highway repair and maintenance for the building.
Yeah,
Mhm.
That is now, 4,488 level funded over FY 25. Last week it was 6,000. So that's a $1,500,
so it's back to 4488.
4488. Yeah. Line 523, the highway equipment rental.
Mhm.
That is now $0. So the cut is 1,607.
What was it for?
Renting equipment,
Yeah, but what
that they
kind?
would use. It doesn't specifically say, but if it's equipment he doesn't have, he needs to go out and get it.
Yeah.
from
So we took it out
some-
and we're not gonna need it this year?
That's what it looks like.
Well,
It's kind of like he's trying to, they asked for cuts, and this is
Oh,
the,
good luck, because I
Department
sure
head.
hope he was renting things that he doesn't always need.
yeah, I don't think it's
I
anything.
mean, for myself, I get an old backhoe at home, gonna sell it this year sometime. Or next year, well, I'm gonna put it up for sale soon,
Hmm.
because I know that for my purposes anymore, going out and renting one at Home Depot is,
Mhm.
let's take the money I get for it, put it in a little savings somewhere with Synchrony.
Yep.
And, save that money to rent one, because it's much better to have the cash on hand than it is to have something that's only used once a year.
Mhm.
And that's what I hope the town is doing,
Right, it's kind of, but, yeah, it's kind of, I would expect him to be doing that. Line 525 on highway communication. It is reduced to 1,648, which is a savings of 2,476. And it says it's due to Comcast bill reductions.
Mhm.
Probably had to do with the fiber optic we put in last year. Um, Line 528, highway building supplies. It is now 1,125, down from 2,249, so a savings of 1,124. Line 529, the highway vehicular supplies. Was at 36,300, it is now 30,000. So a savings of 6,300. Line 537. I'm sorry, 531. Here, I was looking at that.
Vehicular supplies, don't we have old equipment?
We do have some old equipment. He is, on the capital equipment, we are replacing one of his older trucks, the oldest truck. So we're getting rid of some.
So the second oldest truck, if it breaks down, it stays broke down until next year's budget.
Well, I don't know that, cutting that much out. It is gonna preclude any, it may be major repairs, but the mechanic is up there is as well.
Excellent.
It's keeping them running.
So what was the number on that?
So the new number is 1,606.
Or what, other supplies, 531?
Other supplies, 531. That's the line I thought it was on. Yeah. Line 534, the highway replace equipment. That has been reduced to 0, so we cut it 100%. So the total savings from highway, last week to this week is 13,553. If you want to update the subtotal, or the highway total, that is now 617,224.
Well, he did a good job of
Mm,
finding places that he could save. If everybody did as well as him, we'd be
Well,
in good shape.
We'll see.
Yeah.
He's a very thoughtful person as far as the town goes.
Line 610. Housing authority training. Was it 1,400 and it's gonna move to 500, so a savings of 9. 500, so a savings of 9. Right.
Line number one.
610.
Right here.
Line 611. The AHA office and general supplies.
Yeah.
Was at 1,000 is being reduced to 250. It had been lower last week, so, but the total difference, last week to this week is 450, but overall for the FY26, it's down 750. So it, the housing authority total is updated, and it's, do you want the updated?
Do you know what the final snow and ice bill?
That one up. Snow and ice right now is up. I'll get to that when we get to the, Anna, I'm sorry, I will check and make sure it's here. It should be in this file too, but I know it's in the recap sheet. Because we have 3 more lines that changed here. Line 654, Council on Aging, repair and maintenance equipment.
What kind of equipment?
repair and maintenance
equipment.
at Council on Aging.
Mhm.
That number is now 1,480, so it's a reduction of $2,000. And the Council on Aging training line 655. Sorry, be consistent. It is now 1,230. Last week it was 1,245, so it's a $15 difference week over week, but when we look at the total amount, it's a $615 difference from the original budget. And the last line that we have a change on, line 699, the Recreation Department. Okay. Is 60, I'm sorry, the last change is, it's gone to, for FY 26, 62,284.
62,084.
284.
Is it 62 or 52?
62.
60.
62. Yeah.
Was that on the worksheet?
I think it was on the worksheet as the 59. Can you check the worksheet? Because I think there was remember.
I mean, are they giving out raises before?
Well, we're also, in that case, they cut the, assistant director position.
Yeah.
Dawn,
Yeah,
can
so-
I talk to that?
Go ahead.
At the budget summit on the Saturday, March 1st,
That's,
that all of you attended, there was an error found in the calculation,
yeah.
and that was corrected to the 62. When Nelson put it, he didn't advance that number that was discussed and decided at the budget summit. And so in this version, he did do that.
Okay, because I see on the worksheet, it says her proposed was 61,102.
Mhm. Right, and there was
Okay, so
yeah,
okay,
that was, I had brought that up
okay,
at that meeting. I didn't recall the number at the top of my head.
okay.
So that is now corrected. And again, that, it's a little bit higher than what was proposed, but the math was,
Well, not much higher than the proposed
no, but
number.
that's, it's the total raise for the position. So that's all the changes I could find from last week to this week.
How much was this total savings?
Well, how much did the snow and ice increase? Because that will kind of
Yeah.
deflate some of the savings.
It will. So let me just see if I can find the snow and ice in omnibus.
541.
Okay.
That sounds well, right?
Would you say 541?
Yeah, that's where the snow and ice starts. Right below the highway.
Okay. So we don't see any changes in the snow and ice budget. This is what we present to the state, and this is the line that can go negative.
Right.
This is, so when we go to the reconciliation sheet, we see what the final is gonna be on the recap sheet, sorry, not reconciliation. So if I scroll down,
That's this one, right?
yeah, that's that one.
Oh.
It was around 250, and I believe 285
Snow and ice
now.
deficit.
Yeah.
Right,
Additional, okay.
I think I don't have that sheet.
So what do I do with it?
Okay, snow and ice,
I
don't know what the heck I'm looking at.
What was that?
No.
They have to identify, they have to identify themselves, whoever it is.
Just something they know they're live.
I don't think they know that.
That's, so the snow and ice deficit now, which is line 18 in the current, recap sheet, is listed as 285,000.
Yeah, so total, right.
That's the total.
For the fiscal 25, you're saying,
For fiscal 25, barring any additional,
barring any 285,
285, right now.
and we budgeted 202.
No, sorry, it's kind of like, this is the deficit, so this is in addition to.
Oh, so you're saying we spent 485,000 this year on snow and
Right,
ice?
on snow and ice.
Okay, so
Yeah.
the 285 is over the 241.
Okay, so let me
Okay.
see, I'm gonna call up the BBA.
Okay, so where does that money come from?
That's the free cash. We had,
Do we have any more free cash?
we had it allocated 250 to snow and ice deficit.
Okay,
And then we did the 200
to
to
the school,
the budget, the school, and we did 81 to the fire truck.
yeah,
Which I think left about 40,000. So looking at it, I'd say there's no remaining
Free cash.
free cash.
no,
40,000 will cover the
The 40,000. will cover
35
the
over the
difference.
250 we've already done here.
Don't anything happen.
Right, yeah, no more snowstorms, no more ice.
Last night's snowstorm was a
Okay.
bust, so.
That
Yeah,
was good.
yeah,
The snow and ice budget is totally under the control of Jim Smith, correct?
It is.
As far as, especially the expenditure, what gets done, when it gets done, how it gets done.
Mhm.
Yep. Well, if he's as good with that as he's been with the rest of his department, I'll give him a thumbs up. I haven't seen him since they did Old City Road.
Mm.
Stopped in once and he went in his office, which wasn't quite as bad.
hope no late,
No late season storms.
good storms.
So they've been petering out when they get here.
That's-
What,
Yep, it's
you
kind of
know,
like.
my wife keeps telling me the sky is falling and I go out and it doesn't fall on me yet.
No,
Even the rain,
We,
you know, when my phone says it's raining,
Mm.
I'm saying, I gotta reach around like this to catch all the drops.
we have had some major snowstorms lately.
Yeah, they have happened,
Yeah.
They have.
but the weather systems that we've been living under now aren't projecting anything like that.
Yeah, no.
So I don't have
The
the,
last day or so is the big snowstorm we're gonna have this spring. Did you get it? Did you hear it? Did you see it?
Mm.
I woke up in the middle of the night, nothing on the roof. We were tin roof,
There were
so
any reindeers on the roof?
no reindeers on the roof.
no, I had some ice popping, but nothing stuck.
Yeah.
So, but looking at it, this was the end of March. Or the end of February number, the
Mhm.
negative 227.8.
Mhm.
When the BBA for March comes out, let's see, we're at the 3rd, so by next week, I expect the March BBA will be up. And
Okay.
that's where we'll see, we'll get it
285.
for the March. Yep.
Can you send that out to us when you get it?
Mhm.
Okay, so we know we have this, the temporary help under the Board of Selectmen, but they're in the negative for 14,000.
For this year, yeah.
What was that for?
Dawn, would you like me to answer that?
Yeah, I think, yeah.
That was for community aggregation. So the consulting that was done, for that, determining the rates, et cetera, that's what that was for. That's what it was spent for. We zeroed that out for next year, I believe. But that is what it was spent for.
It was total of 24,550, which was,
Yeah, there's only 10,000 budgeted,
Yeah,
so they
well,
will.
I think it, and again, if we look at the top line on there
Mhm.
for the town administrator. It was the same person doing the aggregation that had been interim town administrator,
Mhm.
and they had put some money into the town administrator line
Mhm.
for that, but it looks like it was all paid out of temporary help.
Mhm.
So they, again, and.
Yeah, that's right.
An accounting kind of
Yeah.
thing. Because when you look at that number, that's not Nelson's salary for FY 20.
No, I know that.
um,
Yes, it's his salary.
25.
There.
Mm.
Um,
And so that's why there was extra money put into that line when we had the interim between Eric and Nelson.
I just had a question for you, Don. When
Okay.
you look at the BVA,
Mhm.
because we're pretty much, 75% of the.
Yeah,
of the
pretty
fiscal-
close. Yeah.
So if you look, like if they're only in the low, I'm guessing, if it's
Well,
around six, the low numbers,
Mhm.
that they haven't been spending the money, is that money that potentially could be not spent and used for something else?
That's where we get to the end of the year. We have lines like that there's money in that we didn't use. And there's a place we need to use it. That's where the municipal transfer requests will come in.
Okay.
Are municipal transfer requests only internal department or can they be between departments?
They can be between departments
Okay,
and
so
expenses.
Zondo can give money to James Smith.
Right, and in the past, sometimes we had extra money in healthcare, which we moved around.
Right.
And then sometimes we've gone the other way. It's kind of like, sometimes it's kind of like when we budget for a position
Yeah.
and somebody leaves
Mhm.
town employment, we may not fill the position. So sometimes there's money in salaries that we allocated at the beginning of the year
Right.
that's available. So the money for those transfers can come from a multitude of places in the budget. Any other questions? I see lots of highlighted on the.
Oh, yeah, I was looking at all the negatives
Mhm.
that were in the negative.
Right.
I highlighted the ones that are in I guess the red.
Mhm.
But I don't understand is it was the police. Because they're in negative 47,500, but that's for that's for the new equipment, so I'm assuming that's the cars.
That's the cars. Yes.
But why would it be a negative 47? Because didn't we cover that cost?
Let me think.
What line number are you on?
No, this is in the BVA.
Oh, I don't know where.
Yeah. If
Um,
you look up, we've got it on the screen. If you,
I mean, I'm not
Well, I
quite
have to
sure
get
how
close to it.
this
Mhm.
works, but,
okay, so,
because I thought we allocated money for those cruisers,
we did.
but it's just the way they account for it.
The way they've accounted for it, they did. So we left, when we did the moving of the money last, I think it was September, we left 47,500 because it had been planned for 95,000 for the year. And, Chief Sartell put off.
Well, that's why I guess, because this here says the original budget was 47,500, but they expended 95,000.
Right. So that's.
That was for the two cars.
That's gotta be for a full year's lease
Okay.
paid up front.
Right, okay,
Now, if I recall properly, somewhere up under his wages, he has when like the operating staff still had 394,000 in it.
yeah,
So it was only at 56%.
right,
When we talk about the transfers at the end of the year, this was one of the places that he identified that he would be able to transfer from his wages because he didn't have, he was not fully staffed all year.
okay.
So he budgeted for
A
fully
full
staffed
staffed,
and,
but he will be fully staffed for next year, right?
correct, yeah.
Yeah, I just highlighted all the
No,
negatives.
yeah, that's a good thing.
But, or if it looked like it was a low usage,
Mhm. Yeah, longevity is gonna work.
But in the end,
Yeah.
it looked like the balance was not in the, even though there was negatives, it still was money overall.
Oh, overall, in the whole budget,
Yeah,
if I get to the bottom line,
I mean, I didn't see well, maybe this one. No, that's all expended, that's not, that's, I didn't see the totals in the whole, I think it's just,
yep, the totals aren't there for the whole budget.
okay.
Oh, no, nothing total. So the original budget is 27 million. The adjusted budget is a little higher. And at this point, at the end of February, it was 72.37% expended. So there was $7,641,095 left.
So we only got, so that was so February, right?
That's the end of February. So this would be 75% at the end of this month. So it's running pretty close.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
What if we run over?
Well, again, there's lines that are, we, there's no way we can run over.
Well,
We're not,
what do you mean there's no way? We
Well,
can run over.
we can,
Maybe not supposed to, but,
we're not supposed to. It's kind of
yeah,
like,
well, that's, we're not
So,
supposed to,
well,
but if you're at
if-
72.3 and you still got
4 months, because that's
4
through
months,
February.
yeah,
So
so that's
it
pretty.
really should have been
Pretty
only, should have been
But-
66.
again, your energy is gonna be more expensive over the winter. As you get to the spring, you're not spending as much on the energy lines as we have.
They need.
We're not gonna spend any more on police cruisers that annual
No,
police has been paid. So there's some things in here that are expended out over the whole year. That it's
right,
close,
there are
and-
some expenditures that have already been completed that aren't gonna continue for the next 4 months, I get that.
Yeah.
But we're still,
Some of those.
we're still pretty close,
Yep. It'll need to be, continue to be watched for the next,
So what happens though, say we get like really, I mean, what if we start creeping the next, just say we
Yep.
like we creep up through the end of May and then all of a sudden June comes and it's like, oh,
that's,
bugger.
Yeah.
We're like, we got like a buck left,
well, I think that,
Lucky if you have a budget.
yeah, I was gonna say the accountant and treasurer need to be looking at what the monies are that are coming in and what the expenses are. And as it goes, we should be looking at how much money is left to be spent on benefits and on payroll, and maybe take a look and tie up the expenses right now. But that's something that we need to, I haven't seen the finance committee recommend that before, but it's kind of like it's a town overall budget that the town needs to be watching. That we don't put ourselves negative. So, okay, we haven't gone top to bottom on the recap sheet.
Well, this was the one we had at the March
The
budget
March
summit,
first
right?
budget
Do we have an updated one?
Again, I'll forward it. It was supposed to be attached in the email I sent that said, here's the files. And I didn't realize I had forwarded my reply to Nelson that didn't include I thought I was forwarding Nelson's original file that had the three files. So again, I did spend the afternoon making the update, so I'll send my updated version of the file.
Okay.
Not change, I just, add a column so that,
Yes, I didn't have that one.
So right now, column H is where we're at, trying to get the total appropriations to be raised is the 28,828,000. 746. Current overlay, this is the line that identifies how much money is there for um, abatements and other things by the assessor, like the senior workout program and items like that. So the number in here is it's an estimate of how much money needs to be there. It should not take, it should be only the real estate and excise taxes and.
Do you know how many people actually take advantage of this senior work-off?
I have not asked for those numbers, but that's interesting.
The what?
The senior work-off
Program.
program.
I did it, actually.
What is it?
You get $500
Yeah,
off. Well, I thought you got $500 off your property taxes.
Yeah.
But you have to work, I forget what it was, 40 hours, I forget what it is. You have to work so many hours, to get the, but in the end, they send you a check with the taxes taken out, so you don't really get.
They do it as
Oh.
pay.
Yeah,
so
so it's, see, I thought it was just gonna automatically come off my
Yeah.
property
Yeah.
taxes, and,
Oh, instead it's like, you paid a wage, so you pick a, take off.
my daughter actually figured out, I forget how many hours, 63 hours, I think you have to work 63 hours, because she says, "Mom, you're working for $7 an hour."
Mhm.
And I really worked, because I was cleaning the land use files, I was doing that for that, so. Kim over there has asked a good
Well,
question.
you asked was 3 in FY 24. Abatements. You asked how many did the work off 23 program.
Oh, 3,
It was
okay,
3 in FY 24.
in FY 24.
Wow.
Three
Okay.
people, that's it?
Hmm.
Do you have to
That's an
qualify
opportunity.
for it, or can you? just
No,
do it?
it's kind of,
Well, you send in the paperwork,
mm,
and then maybe, the only reason I did send in my paperwork, and I think it went into the circular file, and I happened to say something to, the land use office, and I said, "Oh, we could really use somebody to clean out our files," so the next thing I know, I got it, I guess I went down, talked to somebody, so I spent, and I even went back after my hours were done, and I kept cleaning up files, just because I felt bad. And the files desperately need to be cleaned out.
yeah, the senior workout program is there for us to try to, of a certain age. And I think it's over 60, so you might even, that you can work for the town, you get a check in the end, equivalent to,
oh, well, for the town, I get 25 or more dollars an hour driving their bloody truck, you know?
there you go. Kind of like everybody has their option, but it's there to try to take
They're
advantage.
still crying for a CDL.
Mm,
Oh,
Yep.
yeah.
Well,
And,
I still have it. I'll have it till the day I die.
And
Federally mandated the minute we bought a new trailer and truck. Well, the new truck, it wasn't a new trailer.
mm,
New trailer was 26, thousand.
Drive one of those big tractor
I was
trailers.
I was 25,900 and 90 pounds, which was 10 pounds, 11 pounds below the required, the requirement for a CDL. Then the new truck came in, and it came in with not 10,000 GVW, it came out with 14,000 GVW. So that threw me way over the limit. I had to keep it. Actually, I had to go back for it. I just canceled it before I destroyed the old truck.
Well, they're always looking for people with CDL licenses.
Well, I'm looking for a 36-hour day too.
yeah. So the other items in here, the cherry sheet offsets and the state assessments, these are the best, these are taken from the DLS cherry sheet numbers.
I think, didn't the numbers go up at 26?
They did.
So the 26, this is for which one, North Middlesex? So it looks like the governor's gonna give us a little bit more money, maybe.
Maybe, it's kind of like, these are the estimates, once they'll go to the House and then go to the governor to be signed before we get the final, when they sign the final budget, that's when we get the final numbers.
Hmm.
So, depends on how long and
That's 25.
Pass.
This is 20, this is 26. 26.
and then,
I guess I didn't do any shoulder.
but that's ours. Then we have line 24, the HERO Act, which is an increase in the veterans exemption. I believe that's gonna be a warrant on town meeting.
What's this?
What's that?
It's similar to the overlay. This is for veterans. They can get additional abatements to their tax bills.
Oh, okay.
So this I believe requires a town vote before it's implemented, but if it is implemented, it's in here for the planning phase, so that
Does the veteran
We have
have to own the property or be married to the owner?
I don't have the details on it, but
Isn't that a state program rather than by town?
it's a state program implemented town by town.
Oh,
It kind of,
But that's not our property tax?
this would be on the property tax.
Well, considering at the present moment, I need to know how much before I even thought about it.
So with those, the additions of the 591,000 in there, which included the snow and ice deficit of 285, that leaves the total amount to be raised. Line 27 is 29,420,170.
Need to back up and
say,
say,
say that again, 29.
29,420,170.
And that's the budget for next year,
That's the budget for FY26.
right, FY 26.
what did you call it, veteran program?
Hero. The
Hero?
Hero Act, yeah.
So,
Veteran abatement, tax abatement?
so you said the snow and ice number had to change to 285 based on this year's deficit?
Mhm. Right.
Okay, because you're saying that's money we have to raise for next year to cover this year?
It's a bill that we're gonna have to pay before the end of June, when we had town meeting.
Okay,
So you'll see in a little bit, that's where we'll see what we have.
So we're gonna get $285,000.
Well, that's gonna be your free cash.
We don't have any, oh, okay, okay.
That's, so
Oh, and then there's no more
there's
free
some,
cash.
there's some
Okay.
items in the recap sheet.
Okay.
You're gonna see them on the expense side, but
Okay,
you'll see the offset on the receipts side.
okay.
Um,
And then then there'll be no more free cash.
Right.
Then we gotta go play the lottery.
With any-
Good luck.
With anything this stuff.
I couldn't keep the ticket.
So right now, the cherry sheet receipts are showing at the 2,172,555. The enterprise indirect costs, the note here, estimate from Dave, this is the amount that the water department transfers to the town for the use, and for us paying the health insurance for them, the services for the accountant, treasurer, all the items that are town, that are expended on behalf of the water department by the town are recovered in this,
in that line.
in that line
Right, okay.
And that's going to 430?
right now. Yep. Then the local estimated receipts, is is showing at 2 million. And the note is saying that it includes, 278,632 of ARPA funds. In there.
Receipts for, what kind of receipts?
I would say all the fees like dog
This
licenses.
is not the property tax.
Not,
the other
not
fees.
the property tax.
Okay, the other fees
The
and
other
charges.
fees, yeah. Um,
Oh, that reminds me.
it's time to pay the bills.
No, trying to find out where the bills are.
Yep, then,
They charge $50 a vehicle. If you accidentally forget to pay
the late
The
fee.
excise tax?
the excise tax.
Yeah.
Well, I have not received 2 excise tax bills, and I know that they should have
came
been
out?
there. What?
They
Yeah.
They
did.
didn't all come to me.
Well,
Okay.
That's
because,
what I gotta find out.
oh,
Yeah,
okay, they did come out.
Yeah, I know, I paid them. And when I paid, I didn't hang on to because they're all supposed to be paid with one check. I have 2 trailers that weren't paid for. And I keep forgetting to go to the tax collector saying, okay, I've given you enough time. Why haven't you sent them to me? Please tell me.
So that was,
They should have been on there. I mean, I went back over my history records. They're there that year.
Kim, you have a question?
Yeah, so Don, just.
Yep.
Clarifying, on the HERO Act,
yeah,
what you're saying is the regular, excise ones that are exempt and we get reimbursed for, that's staying the same, but that there'll be a article on the warrant to go for the increase in the property tax abatement that is not reimbursed by the state.
yes, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Because it's here, that's why I was assuming it's gonna be on the warrant. I haven't seen the warrant articles yet. But I believe that was one,
So.
Yep.
Just for clarity. If the 625, which I can't tell yet whether it includes this, is that one of the numbers that they're using to get to their 625? Still not clear, even with what came out today,
mhm.
on what's in the 625. If that's in the 625.
This would, yeah, if we go to the bottom, kind of like the number.
Yeah.
The bottom line number in this file is 640, which is more than the 625, so.
Right, but if that is in what they calculated for the 625, because it's new,
Mhm.
it's not in our budget currently. So I'm thinking that perhaps, maybe that was a number that was included in the 625 figures. We don't have a list of the 625
Okay, well,
figures, so just whether here
I
or
would-
there.
yeah.
So if it's in the 625,
Mhm.
but it's yet to be voted on
Yep.
at the town meeting, how do you include something that's yet to be voted for in a balanced budget? Like, I'm just not clear on that.
If the vote fails, then you know, you won't need that 75,000, and so an override of 625 would be,
But
but
the override could fail and the
Yes.
vote could pass. And so we're having the override, not knowing the contents. If this is a new warrant article that has to be voted on by
then we
the
need,
meeting,
yeah.
we have it in something that hasn't been voted on yet. And don't need to debate it. I'm just asking you if I'm clear on that. That it's not been voted on yet, will be voted on May 6th,
Mhm.
but it's going to be part of the override, even though it hasn't been to town meeting yet.
How can it be?
Because they put the cart before the horse and we have to work with it the best way we can.
Well, it's a little bit, because we have to prepare the budget,
Yeah.
and try to get it finalized. We should be, you know, real close to finalized now. And you're a month out from town meeting, and you're trying to prepare the budget based
Right.
on votes that are gonna happen in the future.
Right,
If you don't have it in there,
but you
and
need
we-
to have
and
it
we
in
don't-
the
but
override.
if we don't put it in here, and it's not part of the 625, we're not gonna be able to do it in FY 26, because there's no additional money
Right,
to be there. So you've got, you know, it's kind of like.
But why did we vote on that special town meeting in March 10th? Seeing it was passed in August.
Didn't make it on the warrant.
Okay.
Kind of,
How do things get on the warrant?
um,
if we knew that this was
Yeah.
coming up, why didn't they plan to put it on a warrant? So
Earlier,
it's
yeah.
earlier, because it's poor planning if we're,
Yeah.
if we keep,
Well,
if we keep doing stuff backwards, it makes no sense. I mean, I'd still like to know what makes up the 625. I mean, what am I actually,
What are you looking at?
what am I actually voting for?
Mhm.
We-
Yep, and that's what we need to do
It-
and work. And I think next week with the select board, that's what we're gonna be trying to do. Cause that 75,000 is one. The other is we have to prepare, and I'm scrolling down as we get to the receipts, the pay-as-you-throw grant for 62,000. If we don't do trash next year, we don't have the 62,000. So it's kind of like, so there are things in here that you're going best based on where your budget is and where the override is gonna be. If trash, if the override doesn't pass and we have to get rid of trash, the $62,000 goes away too.
Mhm.
It's kind of like, so there's gonna be more, there's give and take in everything we're gonna be doing, going forward, so every, you know, it's gonna say, back to physics, every action is gonna have, it's not equal and opposite, but it's gonna have a reaction
Right.
to it, so as we take some actions and they happen, we're gonna have to take different actions, and the results are gonna change the
So you
assumptions
think
that are
if
made
the
here.
override doesn't pass, the trash goes away?
It's a possibility. That's, the way the budget is built right now is, we have the money in the omnibus budget with 480, so we're funding 300,000 through the budget right now, roughly, rough numbers. So, again, back to receipts.
Right, and that was the number that
Mhm.
that my proposal last week.
Was
meant
trying to shave up.
Oh,
Was
to
meant-
do with the $6.
Right, that
You
would, so that 480 would now
Okay,
go up,
okay.
Right.
and whatever goes up would come out, would not need to be in the override.
I know, and the trash in the woods will go up too, but that's.
Yeah.
Well, that's only if we stop collecting
Yeah.
trash.
No, it'll go up even with the
Yeah, it will.
purple bag increase, it will go up.
Yeah.
So,
Um,
and that's where we were on the.
And my wife had a
Estimated.
question theoretically about that.
Yeah.
She cleans up the road that the town doesn't clean up,
Mhm.
and then we're paying to throw it away.
mhm.
The fact that she's doing such a job that it really doesn't affect
I
the
do,
amount of bags.
I do the same thing, I can pick up a bag of trash just on my street.
And she even asked, had some comment about that with the recycling peep center out there. We picked up a double pane not storm window, basement window, tried to figure out what to do with it. Okay, then we had to pay them to get rid of it.
Yeah.
And, I'm kind of complaining about it, kind of not, and it's because I'm sitting on the fence on that. At least we got it off the street.
Right, that's.
I
that's a
guess
good
I was,
thing.
you could call the highway department, come pick it up.
Right, yes,
I didn't know that they had plenty of extra people that come running around for this stuff. With a mattress or something, yeah, but.
he doesn't, but there's a line on the Board of Health budget, and they work, depending on the size, they will work with the highway department to take it up to the recycle center and get rid of it. And,
I remember that in the future, but
Yeah.
we don't get much real big trash,
Mhm.
soda
Right,
cans and
it's
things
small.
like that.
Mhm.
Actually, most of what I get when I go out there to mow, is soda cans and plastic bottles, so they go in the recycling bin. And, so they're taken care of that way. And a little bit of paper trash, like, candy wrappers and things aren't of that,
yeah. So that,
so I'm not, that was the only heavy thing we ever had, so I'll
we,
donate the $5 or whatever it was. $10.
Not really, no.
So we don't really have an account of where that money's, the 625 is.
I don't even know that's the number, I thought.
I don't know.
okay, that's the number that's written on,
Where does that number come from?
It's on the,
I don't.
it's
I
on,
know.
it's on the, yeah.
We know where it's written, we know where it
I
is.
never got there.
Yeah,
Well, okay, so if we continue down this list, so that, the total revenues, And so I'll just do the big rather than hitting all the little lines. So the estimated revenue is from those sources is 5,082,555. The other available funds that we're gonna have motions for, and again, this gets to putting the cart, putting the cart before the horse, ambulance receipts. Usually one of the first items on town meeting is to move money from ambulance funds to fund the budget. Well, that's here. If we're not gonna do any of the other items in front, this is a piece of that too.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, so yes, when we put the budget together, there are some assumptions based on historical things that
Okay.
we've done.
But how do
in
we know
town
we're
meeting
gonna get there?
and
We don't.
warrants. It kind of, but
And how do we know,
it's,
How do we know?
how do we
I have
know
no idea. We don't
this,
have
this,
anything.
if by chance the override passes? How do we know that the money that we voted to say is actually going to where it's supposed to be going?
well,
Because we don't even know what makes up the $625,000. It's, and how
Well,
do,
but I think the $625,000 is basically just the bottom line of this sheet.
oh,
it's
that
it's
sheet,
the bottom line of this sheet, but it's all in support of the omnibus budget that we had. That we first.
We know that the 625 does not have anything to do with the schools, regardless of what it says on the
well, I
thing.
know it doesn't,
We,
but
it
it's,
says right in the budget.
but it says right there in the schools, which is misleading. in
Yeah, it
itself,
is, but there's nothing we can do about it. It's already
I guess
printed.
I'm going back a couple of years, because I'm still, as a taxpayer, forget the finance committee, as a taxpayer, I'm still passing. Because what was it, when we voted for the trash,
Yeah,
that one article that was on the warrant article, we all stood up and voted, yes, we want to spend the $800,000 for trash. Next thing you know is, we don't have $800,000 for trash. So now we have to go pay purple bags.
Right.
So it's like, I felt, and I was in trouble.
I'm with you. I was there.
But as a taxpayer, I felt like I was lied to because I voted, I want trash.
No, you were lied to, but you weren't lied to by the town. You may have been misled, but you were lied to by the State House. They're the ones that promised us certain funds that they do not give us.
Well, again,
They're the
it's
ones
also-
who tell us that we've got to spend this money. Okay, every time I see a school bus, whether it's ours or Lunenburg's or whoever, I get angry. I can't see one of those without being angry at those creatures down there. That really don't care much about, like somebody gives $2 billion for some.
I know,
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, right.
Kim?
Well, Mr. Chairman, we are hoping that as many people in town as possible write letters to Ways and Means and get the letters down there.
Mhm.
I don't know if FinCom wants to consider writing one as a board, but the more letters that we get down, the better. I know the superintendent and I will be testifying on Tuesday.
Okay, I think I did see that.
Where is this?
The State House, they're having a hearing.
Ways and
Ways and
Means.
Means.
Do we want to take a motion on that?
Do our local representatives know anything about
We
it?
can, since
They
that
have been
came up
helping us
in
organize the
discussion.
211
Thank you.
committee. Yes, and have been, Scarsdale has been at every Ways and Means hearing, to the best of my knowledge, that has been held across the state. I sat and watched her sit for 9 hours last week at one, so I know she was there the entire time advocating. And there's a whole site with all of the communities, so it's called 211, there's now actually 232 in the whole state. It's been assisting.
Is that the number of towns or the number of school districts?
School districts.
School
Yes,
districts.
districts.
The reason I asked is because there's a difference.
211.
Yeah.
North Middlesex is 3 towns, 1 school district.
Correct.
Groton, Dunstable,
It's
2 towns, 1 school
Yes,
district, so there's 2 school
Google
districts with
211,
5
maybe it'll
towns.
pop up.
Yes.
That's only the ones I know. I don't know where Lunenburg stands.
Kim, what's the site?
If you do fix M&A funding, I'll get it for you in a second. I should know it off the top of my head. Or if you just Google 211, I'll get it.
It was just the number 211.
Fixfundingformulama.com.
Is anybody thinking seriously about doing anything about the number of seats on a bus that are necessary?
That's all on the state side, what their
Yeah,
unfunded mandates are, and in there is full reimbursement for transportation. There's a multitude of bills that have been supported from legislators
still
across
like
the
to keep
state.
their budget under control by not having an empty seat drive around twice a day, every day. For my daughter,
I don't.
4 seats empty for my daughter and her friend, and that's just us.
So there's a
Right.
spot right on there. Write that letter, like, get all that information in there, but just advocate for us. The more people that advocate, the less chance that this will happen in the future for not just our municipality, but across the Commonwealth.
Mhm.
If we can get that fixed, and the tax was put in place, it covers schools. We see it chipping away at other things, but we've got to get our voices known, because it's impacting budget from across the state.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Okay, so.
I just thought we love a letter, John.
Yep.
Love a letter.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, then why don't we take a motion? I make a motion that we write a letter to the Massachusetts 211 Assistance Program, or whatever it's, Emergency Management Agency, Kim?
No, it's
No.
fix funding formula MA. It's the Ways and Means.
Are we sending that as a, from the FinCom?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, how's it come in?
good idea. So you made the motion?
We had a motion to send a letter from the
I'll
finance
second
committee to. Okay, we have a motion and a second to forward a letter in support.
If you go on the site, there's example letters, you can
Yep.
just.
Wait a second, where was this?
Okay, any further discussion on sending the letter? Who we want to read? And since it's Tuesday, then we should get it done. Roll call vote on the motion.
Carol Hofstas, yes.
Carol Brizikis, yes.
Mary Jane Churchwell, yes.
Sam Grant, yes.
Dave Walker, yes.
John Hayes, yes.
Okay.
We'll be sending a letter to,
So I guess the question is who's pulling that together?
There's verbiage right on the site for what's right in it.
I know
Yeah,
that,
no,
but
for me,
one of us
I
still has to
technically-
go to the site and pull it together.
Whoever your clerk is.
Reading, thank you.
Okay, so.
Just send me the site, I can.
Yeah.
I've written a letter.
I'm just trying to find all that.
I like to write this down. What's the name of the site?
It's
Said like fix MA funding formula,
Fix. Is
L-A
it
MA funding.
funding.
funding formula? Fix MA funding formula.
fixed funding formula, MA.com.
Fixed. Yeah, I got it on.
Okay.
Fixed funding. Fixed funding
Funding.
Formula. MA.com, okay.
Everything's on there. Fixed funding,
M-A.com, right?
yes.
Thank you.
Let's finish going through.
Okay, let's finish going through. So we had the ambulance receipt. One thing that this 130 from Peg Access, if we, and I talked about offsets. If I scroll up, you'll see that there's some revenue for 130 for PCAM payment. That's the Peg Access. So Comcast gives us the Peg Access money, we pay it to TCAM. So there's some pluses and minuses in
Okay.
here, on the warrant articles that are gonna happen at town meeting. As we put the budget together, it's trying to take into account all the actions that are gonna happen.
So those two lines are essentially canceling each
They
other out.
cancel each other out.
Okay.
The transfer from Title V, that's the inspections for, septic systems, the, transfer from the reading room, the $62,000 grant for pay as you throw, and then the free cash, additional free cash was the 200,000 that was voted in March at the special town meeting for the school. And then the snow and ice overage. So that again offsets the deficit above this will be coming from the free cash. And then the last item they put in here, the the unexpended salaries for the community services coordinator position.
Was that the,
Community services coordinator, not human resources. So that was one of the
Okay.
recommendations we forwarded to them. So the total revenues and available funds.
These were the recommendations we have forwarded.
Is now what, 6502?
6502.55.
Okay.
That's it.
So the total they have showing as what we need to get from the levy, from the tax levy, is going to be the 22,918,115.
I have another question.
Yeah.
Do you know when you'll be getting the overlay surplus estimate?
I don't, I can, see if Nelson has gotten it or contact Vicky and see. For that. Where that is, then this area is the calculation of what the town levy limits are and how we get there. What we have, if I highlight lines 60 through 65, you'll see that for fiscal year 25, we had a starting levy amount, the 2.5 increase to that, the new growth to give us the new total levy at the end of fiscal year 2025 is the 20,303,000. That's the number that carries in and is our base start for 2026.
Okay.
So that's how we come up with the levy limit is just brought from the last year. Then the 2.5 increase to the 20 million is the 507. With the new growth estimated by the assessor's office is 130,000. And so that's rough estimate is the 20,941,561. When we then this additional amount is what can be on the tax bills is, and this was my little note, it's the 2 school exemptions for the Prop 2.5 for the building overrides that we had voted in town when they were built or expanded in Neshoba. So that's 1,335,943. So the total levy that we're getting on our tax bills, just strictly sitting and sticking with Prop 2.5 is 22,277,504. So this last number, the 640, is the difference between how much we're able to raise using exactly the Prop 2.5, trying to pay all the bills that we've identified between the omnibus and those items that we're going to be paying on the warrant articles.
Well, the warrant articles says 625, but today's budget says it needs to be 640.
That's what it looks like to me. Yep. So there's a difference of 15,000 that we have to hold with,
Okay,
and we want to be more than that.
okay.
You don't want to be that close going in.
So now, since it's already published that we can't change the amount, and just say the override does pass,
Mhm.
but it's not enough. So then we gotta go and ask for another override?
No, we
Or we go in and cut
$15,000 from somewhere.
Yeah, and I, as a minimum, I'd like to see 25 out of that. So, just to give yourself a little space. Kind of.
Okay,
And again, what we saw, we didn't see a 3.5% increase on the webmaster budget on that line. So there's still a couple of things that are in here that are in play, but they shouldn't, I'm
Well,
hoping,
and then-
they shouldn't be very big.
Which line is the trash in the omnibus?
It's under solid waste. It's near the end, it's,
Landfill, solid waste, curbside
Landfill.
pickup, there it is, okay.
Which line is
So
it?
that line,
What
so,
line is it?
570. 570. So that line is currently 780.
yes.
We can cut that down to the 340 or whatever. What was,
Well, no, we couldn't cut it down to 340, but
what was that number again? You had it?
780, that's
I know
the,
that one. So,
that's for the, pay the flat fee contract. That's not for the contract to pay the 300 plus the tipping fees.
That's wrong. You're wrong.
I'm
That
wrong?
is for the, it is for the lower priced one, the one where we pay for the pickup and then the tipping fees come to the town. We put a 300K offset in that. Dawn, do you have the contracts? I don't have them in front of me, but it's like 488 or something like that.
It's in the 400s, let's,
Can we see the contract?
Okay, so you're saying that basically the 300 base fee and then you put 480 as the estimate for the tipping fees.
No, 480 is the base fee and the 300 is the tipping fees.
Oh, 480 is the base fee?
Yes, it's not exactly 480, but
no, it's, sorry, let me pull it up.
Do we have a contract that we can see?
Yeah, unfortunately, I thought I had sent them out before. Okay, let me share. Sorry.
What, can you send them to us so we can read them?
These are the ones we got when the health
Contract?
department.
Yeah.
They gave us,
we got it,
you guys
when the
should
health,
all have them.
Yeah,
they gave us, I'm not sure if they gave us copies but they presented it to us.
That is correct.
Totally agree.
I got everything here. All right, I'll see if I got it.
So
have
Dave,
this-
what you voted last time, the motion you made, we had already accepted that. So we agree with that recommendation.
To go with the tipping fee contract.
Correct, exactly.
Okay,
But not the fees.
well, those were two different. Those were
What is it? FinCom for, Townsend.
I don't know.
John needs to.
You should identify whoever is talking.
We haven't got a machine at work.
That didn't sound like English.
Okay, let me get back to that.
This is the Board of Health.
Oh, is it?
They,
Who's in that corner there?
I don't know, some guy, it's a cute dog.
okay, sorry.
Ireland. I don't know, he's cute.
Okay, so what she is suggesting
I have no idea.
is that 780 there, it's a flat 480 for the services, and then approximately 300. So if the town gets together and does a good job of keeping their tonnage down, that will reduce the tipping fees. And theoretically, it will reduce, may reduce a truck or two over time. Which we won't do anything with the contract as far as this is it, but next year's contract may be reevaluated at a better rate or equal rate. Because the guy who's running Shaw's knows how many trucks he needs to get around. In other words, it doesn't, I mean, I know he goes around 4 to 5 days a week. But, they could extend a few miles to get another road out of the way because he's empty.
Yeah.
Not so much.
Yeah.
But
So I have a
they,
question.
yes,
So if there were no trash in the budget, what would the trash be?
You're
what do you
on,
mean work with the trash?
Well, if we just said we're done with trash, get your own, wouldn't the town have to pay something?
yeah,
Well, yeah, so,
And what's that number?
okay, if I'm gonna jump here,
Oh, I'm sorry, well, we'll. wait till
that's
we get
okay,
there.
no, it's still a shop contract. Because it goes in conjunction with there, so the town, they plan to put for the Board of Health a 4-yard dumpster. This is the list of the dumpsters that they're putting for a total annual charge of $960.
$960.
$9,600.
So if everybody gets their own trash, the town only has to come up with $9,000?
No, plus tipping fees. So it's,
Oh, the tipping fees aren't included in the,
no, it's a pretty.
any individual person's monthly bill?
no, we're talking about the town right now. So tipping fees are not included in this price for putting a dumpster and emptying it on the schedule that they're posted. The tipping fees would be, in addition, there'll be a fee for that.
Those will be 20,000 maybe altogether.
Yeah.
I mean, seeing that we have no hard and fast figures, let's use 20. So 20 and 9 is 29, that's 30,000. So that would reduce, that would take, how much would that take out on the budget?
I don't know,
Just saying.
700.
Well, it takes the 738 out,
Mhm.
plus then you have to offset it and take the revenue.
Right, take the
And then you
revenue
have to
out,
take the pay-as-you-throw grant away.
right.
So you have to take those things out. Let me,
Where does that?
Save,
so
Well, that's what I'm trying to find out.
if we're gonna do the scenarios, we'll get back to that, but
Oh, okay. never
just
mind.
looking at the contracts right now, because I'm not getting the option I wanted to share, so it's kind of like, so this is the proposal for, each year. The first year is 478,980, so you could say 479,000. But that's where the 480 comes from, because,
yeah,
and then you have the tipping fees at 105 per ton for the weight, for the weight.
105,000 or
$105 a ton.
Oh.
And for recycling, it's $125 a ton.
yeah, so we should just start throwing the recycling in the trash instead, save
No, we
$10.
can pay $90 and take it to Pepper.
We can save on tipping fees.
Yeah.
But
$90 what, a year?
No.
Sticker, yeah.
So, okay, and then we had,
Recycling is
And then if you want to look at
75%
the,
of our trash.
they also gave us that night, they gave us, a sheet that had the tonnage that had been for the prior
Mhm.
year.
right, yeah.
Um,
But I think that was only tonnage through December.
yeah, right, it wasn't,
Yeah.
right, it was only through November or December. But I just remember the tonnage,
Was dropping.
it dropped once we started doing the bags. The tonnage dropped,
The tonnage did drop.
yeah,
But I thought I saw the recycling had dropped too on that sheet. I meant to ask Irene,
I don't
why had
remember.
that dropped? I would have thought that would have increased, but maybe not.
But I remember doing the math real quick that night on those numbers and I thought that the tipping fees plus the base, just running the numbers over 12 months, replicating those numbers over 12 months came out to a little less than the 780.
It
Or
was
maybe
about
some-
$22,000 less.
I thought it was more than that, but I don't remember, I mean, I can't
That's the
remember.
number. I remember.
No, but that's the number that we have in there, so that's okay.
So we want to do a little work.
Well, maybe it would be cheaper to send it, the bags would be cheaper, the $90.
No, it's-
It's an option that I think we should be looking at. I mean, we've had 2 years to figure this out and nobody seems to know what the numbers are, what the solution is. We bat this around like some kind of a kick the can down the road. Go to Pepper and find out what they're doing, what that'll do for us if we have to.
They
They have their own transfer station.
I was gonna
I
say,
know. and
number
you
one,
have to be a
number one,
president.
every person would have to take it to a transfer station. Number two, you'd have to set up a transfer station if you're gonna emulate Pepperell.
No, I'm saying go to Pepper, not emulate it.
That,
You can go to Pebble.
Go to Pepper, pay $90, take your cheaper bag and go in the car. I'm sorry, you might have to go in the car.
that's the piece. It's kind of like.
Well, I
and
mean,
they're
that's the
open.
piece, but there's always a piece,
Right, so.
Go to the store, buy the
Those-
bags.
Those are options, and a lot of people may not know that that's an option.
That's my point. We have a million options. We have no solution. Let's just get rid of the trash.
Eventually town, Pepperell's
We're
gonna
gonna
get
get-
a little tired of all that trash.
No, they don't.
They probably love it. They're making money
Right,
probably.
it's I did have a conversation with, the people at the transfer station. Seniors can get a $75 sticker, not the $90 sticker.
Oh,
Better, yeah.
Yeah, do
They
that.
have bags, they have the small bags, they have the large bags, they have stickers that you can put on a 39-gallon black bag that you buy at the grocery store.
There you go. So you don't have to buy a purple bag.
You
You can
don't
buy
have
a
to
black
buy-
one and put a
But you
sticker
still
on
have to buy the sticker,
How
and
much
the
is the
sticker
sticker?
is more expensive than the large purple bag.
How much
it is
are the large
20
purple bags in Pepper?
they would be the same price, the $3.50 a bag. in Pepperell.
And compared to the $6.
We don't, they're not $6 yet, that was what,
No, it's kind of
well, I mean,
like,
it's just crazy,
Yes,
but we
there-
spend a remarkable amount of time. And before they even introduced the trash, they didn't have a clue, but they just said, okay, we're gonna do this. So I don't understand that as far as fiscal and sound governing, I don't get that part.
well, those are the pieces. If there is a large contingent of people in Townsend that like the curbside pickup, so they're trying to preserve the curbside pickup for those people that want the curbside pickup, and not have to contract it out on their own. But there are options.
If, say we got rid of trash,
Mhm.
would we need an override?
That's my question.
Yeah, you'd still need an
The difference-
override.
Yeah, you will, because the difference is gonna be about 300,000 that you'll take down when you have the roughly 800,000. And then 480 that you're getting in revenue, that washes and
You've got,
it only takes 300,000 off the budget.
you've got like 540 that you've got to give back, the 480 in estimated revenue plus the 62,000 grant for the trash program, because
But
both
is
of
the
those.
480, but is the 480 a real number, or is that just something else we've?
No, well,
No,
that's,
a real number.
that's
No, you're
an
right.
estimate,
No,
that's
it's
an,
not
it's
a real
an,
number. We don't know the real
It's
number.
not
It's
a
an
real number.
estimate
It's
of the
just
revenue based
exactly.
on history. That's all
But the
you have.
history isn't even 12 months,
That's right, but that's all you have.
but it's not real.
But it's actually 36.
It's what?
It's closer to 36 a month instead of 40 a month, so, but
What,
But
the purple bags.
right.
It depends on it
But
depends on
that's
what.
$4 difference, you mean it's higher or lower?
No, they're
It's
basing it on a
$4,000.
40, they're basing it on a 40,000 a month. But it's actually closer to 36,000 a
So
month.
already the number's off.
And then if, depending on what the receipts are for February, it could go up or it could go down. Depending.
well, in January,
Okay.
I don't think we had the receipts for
All right.
January, we didn't have the numbers for January.
So- You have to know what the receipts are.
Yeah, we
to
did-
know-
We need the receipts for January, February, and March.
To see if it's even, if it's close to 40 or is it dropping down to something closer to 30?
So we're spending all this time on
Um,
something we don't know. Is that Bill smart?
Well, but you can't know it,
Right.
But you could.
You
Well,
can know history.
but you can't, you can only go by the history,
Yeah,
that's.
but we only have history back to October or,
And we don't even have the September number, because the September number is really where you had the initial kickoff, where everybody bought to get their initial
Okay, so
bag.
you just take it at a random number. Okay, I get it, I get it.
It's not a random number. It's a number that the state has validated that we can use for estimating what the revenues for page should
I
go
just
is.
don't get this whole
It's not
state
just-
thing where we can't have real-time accurate numbers in the state says we can't use real-time accurate numbers. I just don't
But
understand
you know
that.
what? I think that's just to compare the budget, but then there's real life.
Right.
Well,
They-
yeah.
And I think that
Is-
we've been spending time on this arbitrary state, mandate, whatever you call it.
Okay.
And we're not doing real life here.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Okay, the state blessed the budget. Okay, take that blessed budget, stick it there.
Right.
Now we're trying to do a budget for FY 26. We need to do that with real-time current numbers. We're not gonna, the state's numbers sit here and we don't touch them until we can do whatever. But we can't balance a budget if we're using the state numbers that aren't current, that aren't the current numbers. Even if we have to do a whole separate books.
But apparently the administration is good with that. So how do we work around that? How do we work around something that's not real? And we tell the taxpayers, oh, well, we did our best, but we didn't really have the numbers because the administration couldn't give them to us because states said, the excuses go on and on.
But even, okay, I get the state bless them, we can't touch them. But that's one set of books. We should have a new set of books with the real current numbers to do our FY 26 budget.
You do. It's the BVA. This is Veronica Kell. The actual numbers are the BVA,
BVA
but you
doesn't-
can't project off of those. I don't even.
the BBA does not include revenue statements or any revenue. That's all expenses.
No, it doesn't. But if you want to look at the budget of what is actually being spent, that's where you look and you have that data. And we use that in our meetings to see whether or not the numbers were valid numbers that
And we
were
would-
brought forward by the departments. We did look at that.
Okay.
I'm confused.
That-
I'm confused. I'm just so confused.
I guess there's like the numbers and then there's the real,
Okay.
I don't know, I just think the people
What-
sitting in the taxpayers. Unless they're,
What number do you? are you-
no, I think it's, no,
No, I mean, what do we need to, do we need to go to the accountant and get receipts from Waste Zero to see what? All the
no, we can't, oh my God, we've already done all this for 3 months, I mean, by now we
But
don't
we
even have a
haven't-
number, I just don't, why are we, how is it so hard? Why is it so hard? And Veronica's been a board of selectmen before, does this happen every year and it's okay? Did you wait till the
It's not-
11th hour and you have some fake number that you give 2 weeks before?
It's not okay, and year over year, for as long as I've been here, we try to put together a budget with, and all the way through, to just before town meeting to get it to balance,
Well,
because
maybe we should be
numbers-
looking at it from July when it starts. And then by December, we
it-
might know something. And then the next 3 months, we won't be doing this. This is crazy.
well, we don't have real numbers yet. It's kind of like.
I
Well,
know.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair? Mr. Chair, could I ask a question?
Who's speaking?
This is John Priest. I just have a question. I'm just not understanding, why aren't we running this through a revolving account? Everything on the pay-as-you-throw program says the purpose is to remove that from the tax levy budget discussion. And that's what other towns do. They either have a revolving fund or they have an enterprise fund for trash. So
We had discussed that for FY '26. In FY '25, it was started mid-year. And so it was, when we started it, it was determined that it would just, the funds would go into the general fund. Because the bill's paid out of the general fund. If it's on the revolving account, then the payment can come from there, but, not quite sure who I guess that would be a Board of Health revolving fund, but
yeah,
we'd have to set up, who's responsible for the revolving fund and who's getting the invoices and paying them off.
yeah, it's already in our bylaws though to be managed by the Board of Health for any trash fees. And it's how the other like pay-as-you-throw towns do it. It's either an enterprise fund or a revolving fund. And it's like you've all said, you're spending so much time on this, but the whole point of it is to remove that piece of it from this. It's whether we're funding a portion of it from the general fund or we're having a fee and bag charges. The point is to take it away from this.
And John, just so you know, it already appears like there was a Board of Health bag revolving fund.
But there was, and that was set up for overflow.
Yeah.
But it wasn't specifically just for that. Board of Health has one revolving fund and it handles the recycle center. And so that's why but
couldn't they just use that same fund?
I couldn't
Yes.
find a record of the revolving fund with the name referenced in our bylaws in any of the documents.
Yeah, no, you'd see the revolving fund, in the annual town report. That's usually the article before, we go to the budget in all the town reports.
Well, I think that what she's saying is incredibly reasonable. Thank you. So why can't we look into that? With the Board of Health, I mean,
With the Board of Health, with
Yeah.
the Board of Selectmen, it's kind of like, in the accountant, we have to make sure that if we're setting up the new revolving account, we we take a vote at town meeting, to set it up and then continue it. It's kind of like, and then we have
Well, if
to.
it's already there, that's what I'm saying.
Well, the
Well, the
contract,
Board of Health one is, but that's right now used to run the recycling center.
Specifically, it's for that reason.
yeah,
I believe,
Do we know for sure?
hang on,
I'll pull it up now on my computer since I'm sitting right here and you have other things to talk about. I'll pull it up and if I find it, I will chime back in.
Well, if they were using the revolving fund for the overflow bags.
Our bags say overflow, if you look at them.
Yeah.
The ones you buy, they say overflow.
Oh, do they?
Yeah.
Gotta pay attention, but
Yeah.
they were overflow,
Okay,
they were
so
collecting the overflow bags, so.
the revolving fund name is called recycling.
Okay, so, all right.
That's the one the Board of Health has.
Okay,
All right.
excuse me. Sorry, I did find it. So it's actually under the fees section of our general bylaws and under solid waste collection and disposal, where the Board of Health can establish fees. And then there's a dedicated revolving fund to be called the Solid Waste Fund shall be established.
There you go. Shall be or is?
It says in here, it's 37-5. A dedicated revolving fund to be called the Solid Waste Fund shall be established. The fees collected under 37-4, which is all of the fees relating to trash and solid waste, shall be placed in this fund. Fees from this fund are to be spent under the direction of the Board of Health. I remember bringing this up last year. I just brought it up to the wrong people, I think.
Are you assuming we're the right people?
Yes, I am, because you take the time to actually talk about this and I appreciate it so much.
Well, we appreciate your input, believe me.
Yeah, no, we had discussed.
Okay, yeah, well, let's
it's a town.
solution oriented here.
Yeah.
Right.
Go ahead. That's a great idea. Well, let's find out about it. If it exists, Veronica, do you know if it exists or not?
No, I don't know. I wasn't involved in the trash discussions last year.
That would be the Board of Health people.
Board of
right?
Health would know, yeah.
See, there was.
What was your question, Mary Jane? If that fund that Dawn just brought up, the solid waste, the
fund.
revolving solid waste fund, it said it shall be created. No, did it ever get created? I mean, this is Townsend. Did it ever get created? Where is it?
We voted as recycling and
We changed the name?
that's what's in the motions we make at town meeting.
But that's different, solid waste and recycling, aren't they
Yeah.
two different things?
Yeah, I would think so.
How can you just switch like that?
I don't see why they can't, according to what she read, they can't open up in different.
Oh, but switch,
revolving
well, why don't
account
we
for
just
the
use
trash.
one and call it recycle/solid waste account?
Goes to the work that was done last year when we were setting this up. Board of Health didn't want to manage it in their revolving account. It's set up for $20,000 a year.
Oh, they did not want to, they refused to, or did not want to?
There's a whole process of, there were people in the room that decided how the process was gonna be. And the process was pay as you throw bag money, revenue was gonna go into the general fund, not the recycling. So Board of Health washed their hands if they're not getting the
Did the
revenue.
Board of Health
they
make
don't
that
have the-
decision, or was it
I think it was-
pressured by the Board of
I think it was,
Selectmen?
I don't think Board of Selectmen were in the meeting. I think it
Oh.
was
Okay.
department heads. And people implementing it, for where the revenue was, where waste zero money was going, setting up the accounts, for where the money was gonna post and transfer into the town accounts.
Well, I think that's a reasonable option.
To clarify, this wasn't part of like last year's discussion. It was just something I found in the existing bylaws. So it looks like it was actually adopted back in like 1992.
Reasonable things were happening.
The way the bags come in just says BOH BAYT dash trash bag revenue.
Trash can revenue.
It's how it's listed on the revenue.
On the revenue.
Oh,
on the town account. Yeah.
So it goes into the general fund, but it goes on a specific account, you can see how much we got. No?
No, it will post, you'll
Post to it as
post
specific
from
place.
Waste Zero will, the postings
think
from
it
Waste
goes
Zero
to Carla, right?
will be there.
Dawn, Dawn, this is Todd Melanson. When you get a second, I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
So I'm sorry I'm late. I meant to be on here earlier, but I just got home.
Yep.
Has the cross charges from water to the
We did hit it, the line on, I don't think I'm sharing it right now, but yeah, we showed, I think it was 430 was on the transfer
so
number.
did they? Can I ask if, and I fought for roughly 6 years to get this to be used, was the Department of Local Services / the Department of Revenue's spreadsheet for calculating those cross charges supplied? Because the previous board was very good about doing that. We set our budget based on what we guessed what the cross charges would be. And it's not something you can just pick out of the air and put a number to. This was a very transparent way so that everybody knew what the calculations were coming from. So they are supposed to supply us that. And we voted on our budget back in January. And it's the board's job to do the budget for the water department.
Yep.
So I'd like to know if that document was supplied to you so you could have backup of why those charges were. Would you say it was 430,000?
Yeah.
So that's like a $48,000 increase from the previous year.
It is. How many, what did we have for headcount increase, with the new wastewater treatment plant?
No, and that's fine. And it may be an accurate number, but you're not going to know. And I fought 6 years to get this implemented. It should be continued. The other boards did it and agreed that it was the proper thing to do. So if you're putting numbers out there, then those numbers should be backed up by that document. I that was one of the reasons I started running as a commissioner, was to fight that. It's a way to be transparent with the public on what goes on with the water enterprise account. And, it's, like I said, we have to set our budget in January because we have to set the rates for the coming year. And that has to be done so we can notify the public. So I just like to make sure we're using that form. That's what I fought very hard for.
Now,
Todd, can I ask a question, Dawn?
Yep.
This question's for you, Todd. Have you talked with Dave Vijant? That is the formula that we were using back when I was a selectman before.
Mm-hmm.
I know that for at least the past 4 years that's been used. Dave Vijant gave that number to Nelson. And so I am assuming, let me finish. I am assuming that he did use that formula and that he ran it by you guys. Is what you're saying here that that the water superintendent did not use that formula?
No, I in fact, I don't know, but that
Okay.
might have been, that might even be because I can't find my notes. So what I'm telling you is the Board of Selectmen should have a long time ago sent that to us. That's not for us to come up with. That's your job as the Board of Selectmen, and the town administrator's job is to send that to us in a timely fashion so we can set our budget. I think that is the estimated upper total of what he was estimating at. But unless you guys use that sheet, it's not Dave's job to do that.
Okay, so you want us to determine that number. We can do that, Todd. That's not what's happened in the past.
So long as you follow that document, that when you supplied that to this group, this committee, you should have included that so it would show the breakdowns of insurance, healthcare, the cost that you're charging us.
Look in the budget.
Let me finish.
Dawn.
Let you finish. Let me finish. That breaks down what you charge us per individual employee and what the water department uses in time and staff. And it lays it out very, very simply.
Yes, that is correct.
But it is not Dave's job to do that. That is your job and the TA's job.
That's interesting. Okay, I will see that we do that then. Thank you.
It's the way that it's been done since we've been here, since I got it implemented.
And it would, Mr. Chairman,
Yep, yes.
And it would
Yeah.
seem that if there's a formula based on what that just discussion was,
Mhm.
of numbers that would not be all round numbers, that they would be known, that could be plugged into the formula.
Right.
And it would be highly unusual at this point for it to be a whole number, that it would
Right.
be.
Yeah,
Oh,
they-
you mean the
similar-
answer? Oh, yeah.
Like the prior
Gotcha,
years
yeah.
that, yeah,
But they round up, I thought. I thought they rounded up.
no sense. You round up to whole dollars, but, what Kim is saying, like the FY 24 had 386,855. Fiscal year 25 was 381,651. And she's saying it would be very unlikely to be an even number of 430,000 even.
Oh. Yeah.
So, but it goes to, and it does say estimate, it doesn't say,
Oh, maybe.
yeah, it does.
John, I just
estimate.
want to add one thing too, is that usually gets sent to us in what has happened in the last few years is if most of the time it's been dead on because they say a percentage of the time of the town accountant, percentage of the time,
Right.
per person and stuff like that. So in that regards, that's supposed to come from them because that's their staff. What Dave gave them was probably an estimation, and that's what we went off of. We set our budget back in January, and now, and I just don't want to be. I did it. It was happened to me before, on the floor of town meeting. This number got changed at the last minute, and I had to stand up and say that's not the way to do it. It's wrong, and it passed town meeting, and we had to make it up out of our budget and stuff like that. But I just want to make sure that doesn't happen again. And Dave didn't do anything wrong. He was asked to give a number, an estimate, and that's what he did. But it's not for him to come up with that calculation.
We can calculate it, Todd. It's not a problem. I know exactly what formula you're talking about, and I know what happened, 5 or 6 years ago. So, yeah, we can do that. Not a
We'll go back.
problem.
Did that change anything on the budget?
We're not gonna change anything on the budget right now. We're just gonna highlight that we need to
It
validate.
needs to be up.
Validating that it's the formula?
Right, validate, yeah,
Oh, that's good.
validate that it matches the formula and it uses the formula and what we're putting in here is the number.
So, but that's not something we do.
That's not anything we do.
Yeah.
That comes from the accountant, going out and getting costs. for
Okay.
Yes, the health benefits and how much, what percent of her time is spent.
But we, as the
Doing the work.
FinCom, should know if that was used and the figure is accurate.
Yep. Yep.
So how are we gonna get that feedback?
It will be between Nelson and town accountant that we make sure that this is reviewed and updated and water department, gets, from town administrator,
So can we, by next week, when we have a joint meeting, can we confirm that that's right?
we should, yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
So it'll be confirmed.
to be confirmed.
Is that good with you, Todd? Are you there? Okay, so I get it, what this is.
I did. I'm sorry. I muted myself and I was having trouble unmuting. That's good for me. But if the estimation that Dave gave her, that would be the absolute upper limit of what we fit into our budget. And I think that's what he did give. If I'm remembering, I was trying to go back through my notes to find when we approved the budget and what we set that at, and I couldn't when I got home. So I apologize for that. But yeah, that's that's what it is. If it's, but if we've always discussed with the board before, if those numbers were different than what we had estimated, or we disagreed with percentages and stuff, we talked it through and stuff. It's just very late in the game to be trying to do that right now. And so, that's all I want to do is make sure I've made every other board use that. And it would just, I'm just trying to be consistent in what we're doing and just making sure I'm protecting the water enterprise account.
And again, there probably wasn't a procedure in place to prepare the budget, passed from town administrator to town administrator, so.
That's good
it's a learning-
information.
Yep.
I would also like to point out that the water department did not attend any of our meetings for budget, though invited. Nobody came, so we were, I know, at least I can speak for myself on the board, we were relying on Nelson and Dave to work that number out. So I'll confirm it. It's not a problem. Thank you.
So I will add to that this is a well-known document from the Department of Local Services in the Department of Revenue. Every superintendent that I work with uses that for the town. This isn't something out of the blue. This is something that wasn't used in our town for whatever reason before, but most towns use that, especially for water districts and water enterprise accounts specifically, so that there is no miscommunication, so that it is transparent on what you're getting charged for. So whether we were there or not, that should have been done. We should not have had to go to a meeting to do that. Most of this budget has nothing to do with us except for the cross charges. And that's where the document comes into place. So yeah, we did not go because we don't have input on any of these. Nobody sets our budget but my board. That is one of the primary duties of my board. Coming up with the cross charges, that's the town's job to say this is what we've come up with. Then it's our job to look at it, go through it, and say, well, we disagree with this or that, or we agree with it. For the most part, we do, because it lines it out very, very specifically. So that we didn't attend a meeting doesn't excuse the thing that the board and the town administrator, who should have known, didn't use that document. It had nothing to do with the superintendent. It had nothing to do with my board. It had to do with the fact that it wasn't done previously. Now, the numbers may be, it may fit, but you're not going to know exactly unless you use the document. Veronica says they're going to use the document and come up with a number. That's great. But, that's all like I said, I've made every other board do it. I had to fight to get it in here. It would be, it's not, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not consistent if I don't. I made everybody else do it, and it's not. So I guess that was my point coming on. So I'll let you guys go. All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Doug.
you. Okay, can we go back to the trash?
Oh, thank
Button
you.
that up? Sorry.
No, I've been waiting for
Well,
it.
I mean, so the town resident, Dawn.
Yeah.
She brought up, and can we discuss that with Board of Health, or at least speak to them about that?
That revolving fund.
About the revolving fund, if it is a recycle only, what happened to the solid waste fund that the bylaws say they were supposed to set up?
Got another one.
Or if this is it,
Oh,
they
no, we got-
renamed it and.
Just read it, or
Well, if they renamed it, then it's not it.
the two revenue accounts related to bags. One says VOH, PAYT dash trash bag revenue. The other one says BOH, revolving dash trash bag fees.
Oh,
Where's the
oh,
revolving?
so they got two.
So those are the two that
They
are
have
in
two
there.
accounts.
One is one is just a general line item revenue coming in.
Okay.
The other says specifically revolving. Those are the two that list bags.
So there's an option that the Board of Health could look at. Did they look at that? Do we know? We don't know.
We don't know. It was not.
What I have
Not part of the setup.
feeling why, from listening to the trash thing since I've been on this board for how many decades?
You're kidding. It's kind of every year?
No.
Okay, how long it goes on and on and on.
Yeah.
But the point is that it should almost be seriously like the water thing we've just been listening to. The Board of Health should be figuring out all these things that we've been talking about, because they have the data available to them, they theoretically have the expertise, they have the communication with Shaw's, they've got everything that we don't have. And they should be saying, okay, the budget for the town has to work its way down to zero. How are we gonna, get this trash problem solved for the town and the community? For the drivers you pick up, I want it to work, but I would like somebody to really look into the numbers that we've discussed. We've only had a little bit of tease on all the little numbers that are involved to come up with, information. And it would be really nice to have the experts that they're supposed to be, or the somewhat expert, at least more knowledgeable than we are, on how to solve this particular problem. To get, to make sure that we cover the $780,000 that's paid out, that it does come in from somewhere. I personally have no problem with his $6. Okay, because I know that I'm still being a member of the community, and I am paying less per month through the $6 a bag or $30, a bundle. That in order to, because that assumes that I use that many in a month.
Right.
And it makes me conserve, because if I can get, as I said, 2 weeks in a trash bag instead of 1 week in a trash bag, my family benefits from it. The tipping fee is gonna be reduced. And therefore the town will benefit by my little tiny, minuscule amount, but it'll still help.
Got it. Okay.
So I love over the years, we've bid up our taxes to pay for the tip, for that problem. We've had a big problem over the decades from Beacon Hill on our funding our schools. We have been fighting the school department, we're all fighting. But I'm saying, this is what happens to the trash money.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so I'm accepting that. Hopefully, we will take care of it, but I'm just hoping that this, the little fix the town, fix massive stuff, make a deal. Because it is kind of important that we get back on track of taking care of our schools. I came to this town.
Oh, you're talking about the letter from Kim.
The letter from whatever.
Yeah,
So
we're gonna write. I got the examples right here on my computer. I'm gonna write it tonight. I'll send it out to everybody to look at. We got the letter covered.
I
Good with the
understand.
letter.
But because it is the whole system, okay, and this trash is part of it. Now we're fighting amongst ourselves, not just us, but the town people are fighting amongst ourselves about how to solve our trash problems.
Right, but we have more problems to solve besides that is the budget people.
Yes. Right.
So let's move on to the next.
What's next?
Is there another one?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, well, you had asked about taking out the trash, so there's this.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. So we're good. We'll get
Okay.
that Don Priest, Todd Melanson. I like this input.
Yep.
Yeah, it's good to know that somebody's listening to us. Anything else next?
Okay, well, if we want to look at the budget on a simplistic form from removing trash altogether from the budget,
Yeah.
taking away the revenue and taking.
Oh,
away
did you
the
do that for
changes.
those numbers already?
I just hit it now, yeah.
Okay.
So
Mhm.
it will drop the operating budget by the 700,000 and change.
Mhm.
So if I take that line out, so it's right now 11,933,000. If I take out that line from the omnibus budget,
Mhm.
it drops it to 11,153,000. If I went down and I took out the 480
Mhm.
from the receipts
Mhm.
and I took out the 2,000,
Mhm.
that reduces the number to 402,611. So it reduces it from where it was at 640, so it takes about 240,000 off the bottom line.
That's a nice number.
It's an easy number, it's an easy hit by taking it out, but
Okay, so it's an option.
Well, and if the trash moves to the Board of Health in a revolving fund, we essentially do the same thing here,
Oh,
right?
if we can guarantee there's gonna be enough revenue in there for them to pay it, yeah.
How often do we collect the revenue? I mean, how often who collects it? And-
The revenue
Yeah.
from the pay-as-you-throw bag,
Right,
it is transferred monthly by Waste Zero into an account that posts into the books on the town side.
so it's posted by who?
Waste
Waste Zero.
Okay.
Is that an extra something we're paying for?
No.
oh, I'm sure.
No, it's part of the price of the bags, it's kind of like it.
Oh, yeah, we are paying for it in the price of the bags.
Right,
Yeah,
it's
right.
kind of, so they, because they manufacture the bag, as they
They
ship
get
out
their little-
to the stores,
Yeah,
they, so because all the stores that are selling the bags pay Waste Zero. Waste Zero will take their little cut, and then
Do the stores get anything for selling the bags?
they're very nice people and they're doing it at no, for nothing. They're doing it for no
Wow,
value
so
add.
Waste Zero
Well, it's
makes
not-
the money. Cool, interesting.
Go in
What
and
do
buy
they
a
want
bag
to do?
and not take something out with you besides the bags.
Pardon me?
I don't know anybody who can go in just for one item and go out with just that one item.
Yeah, it gets your foot
It
traffic.
gets you in, yes,
Oh,
gets you in the store, so you buy more.
yes, yeah, I guess.
That's the same reason for lost leaders.
Oh, the bags are a lost leader.
Not necessarily for the town,
No,
but
but,
they get you in the store.
all the vendors
And you
that
go
are.
on later.
So you said that gets you down to 402.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dave's still on trash. He's never gonna get off trash.
No, I'm not, I'm just
You love
Right.
trash.
looking at the
Just
number.
looking at the number, that's what it would come down to if we totally take trash out of the plus and minus.
Out of the budget,
Right.
whether it goes to the Board of Health or it goes the way of the dodo.
Well, it's,
So you're only,
but again, it definitely has, there's gotta be a definite.
Yeah, if it goes to the Board of Health, they have to do more to determine what the price of the bags needs to be.
Okay, can we take a different path right now? Can we pretend that the override did not pass? What happens?
Well, I think we just take the first cut at it, and it's 240 out of the budget.
Okay, well, that's good to know that we have a plan.
Well, it's a start of a.
so out of $780.
I mean, I think just like last year, we go back and try to cut the budget and come up with a new number and go have another override vote.
Why do we have to have an over?
Well,
Or you cut the number enough where you don't have an override at all.
Yeah, what's
One or
wrong
the
with
other.
doing that? I mean, what's wrong with that task? Or that exercise?
Well, you could do that, but then it's a matter of, okay, what other functions in town are we gonna shut down?
that
Do we
be-
have to say shut down? Can't we say modify?
You can say
Shut down
modify,
the
but
policy.
chances are that somebody's gonna get shut
Yeah.
down.
Right.
Well, yeah, maybe.
maybe.
Not maybe shut down, modified. I'm going with
Out
modified.
of $780, we're only saving 200 and a quarter, you said.
What happened? I can't remember on the highway
Well,
department. Was
again,
that
when we-
250?
And everybody out there has got to figure out where,
With the highway
what
department?
highway they're gonna dump the trash on.
Stuff.
Remember when,
The $250,000 for.
That's been gone for a long
That's
time.
been gone since
Yeah.
March 1st. Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
So
that was long gone.
that was one
I
of
just
the,
keep hoping. You keep
that was
hoping
one
for
of the-
trash, I keep hoping for roads.
well, I would too. I mean,
I mean, my car is just dying.
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean,
it's pretty, and it's not just, it's every time.
After two
Yeah.
trips to the school, I
Yeah.
figured the rattle's not going anywhere, so I let it go.
So now we have to come up with another 200, no, another 400,000.
400,000, yeah. And
400,000.
pretty much you've asked all the department heads to go through and cut all expenses. They cut their expenses, so now I think,
then you have to take some really hard looks. Somebody actually, a couple of people had actually mentioned to me to get rid of TCAM and go hire the audiovisual from the high school to take over.
But then we would move that, then we wouldn't get that
But
revenue from.
Yeah, because
utilities.
TCAM is a net zero.
Isn't it?
Yeah,
and that's
yeah,
zero. That-
Because we get money from you.
that money comes in from Comcast
Comcast.
and
So they.
Yeah, it's kind of like we
So it
did
doesn't, you can get rid of TCAM, but it's not gonna do
Do
any
any
good.
good. Okay.
So we have to come with $400,000.
Yes.
Okay, so we could cut. I don't know.
Who's gonna write it
Well,
down?
you close
No, I'm not
down.
writing a check.
What
What?
would,
Right.
would you save anything by closing town hall on Friday? Because it's only open.
I don't know. I don't know what the savings is from for closing. We never.
I mean, it's hardly open anyway.
Well, right, yeah, so I don't know, I don't know what it would cost. I mean, save, I don't know. We've never been
But they're
privy
still,
to that.
they're still expected to do the 40-hour order under hours is expected, but do it within 4 days or do it.
Oh, no, no,
So
no,
it's
no.
still a
If you
day.
only work 4 days, you only work 4 days. I mean, you can't ask for 40 hours and 30.
One of the things you're reducing is
Hours.
hours, therefore you're reducing,
Are you reducing
and the-
hours for the people that are getting paid by the hour? What about the people that are getting paid by salary?
by contract, yeah.
By contract?
No, yeah, that's true.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Kind of,
Well, what about, all right, well, let's go back to, I hate to bring this up and I'm sorry, to the HR position. Because,
That's already cut. I think.
no,
No.
no, it won't cut it.
the community outreach, but,
The community
Yeah,
outreach.
but that's not what we're talking about. We've already, she's gone, she left on her own, she understood, she.
Yeah, but
served,
that,
and she
the
left.
human resources number is already zero.
right,
Yeah,
so,
but
so again.
No.
it's a different budget that you don't
it's
see.
ARPA money, so,
No,
so when we showed a
It's
line,
not zero.
there was $200,000 line in the revenue side of this.
Yeah,
That says figures include the ARPA funds of 278,000. 278,000. But that was for last, I'm sorry, that's FY25 numbers. That's what we did in December.
okay, so,
And again, that was just identifying the difference. So when you look at the FY25, it was 2,178,000. And that included the 278,000 of ARPA funds.
so if that position was terminated, if we took the motion last week, and the monies were reallocated, does that affect the budget in any way, shape, or form?
By about, I'm gonna use a round number because I don't know what it will be. If the BOS continues the position, obviously it goes down. Last time we saw the figures, it was plus or minus 120. But that does not include what may or may not be being paid out of the levy already for insurances. So.
Right.
That's like $24,000.
There's,
I think the insurance is
The
30,000.
one position?
Yeah,
$30,000?
yeah.
You'd be
For what I
surprised.
right, and retirement and such. So there's a savings that we don't see on the ARPA funds itself. So there's the ARPA funds, there's salary. Now, there's been some discussion around a number that I said, and the 40 that I referenced was town hall employees, which the sheet that I was given for the town, from the town on employees had 40 in town hall. So that's the number that I use. But for clarity, and we'll put this out there, there's 130 of the employees that were referenced by the HR person make under $10,000. And not that they're not important to be part-time, but those are like the rec group, and I know the rec director does those. Some of those are the work-off program that we talked about. And again, all that I got was the 24 numbers for the actual list, so I have to go with the numbers that I was given. But that's where the 40 came from, was the spreadsheet that I was given at town hall. There's other options. While Selectman Kell would say the school hasn't given a number or talked about it, well, because there's been no ask, like if you did X, Y, and Z for us, what would that cost? So it's hard for them to just say it costs. So there's efficiencies that can be had with online things, with contracting. If there was a need, I know in our list, she creates a binder, it said, for the negotiations, but I know when it comes to negotiations in the past, it's always been attorneys that do that. With our unions. So it has nothing to do with the person holding the position.
Correct.
It has to do with the functionalities of the community.
Yes.
And in many towns our sizes, as I said, it is shared between schools and municipality. And most of, I should say most, many, it's under the TA's job description that they handle it. And if you look under the TAs, it's TAs and TAs assistants. that are helping. Granted, there's some departments that might have more complications, but everyone's doing their own interviewing. And a lot of the HR functions these days can be automated. There can be training videos done. It's very easy to do some of it in an automated fashion for those that might need it. And given the choice of cutting other services and positions in a very big way, it is an opportunity for our community to look at it. I know there's disagreement on it, but there again, that was when we did the straw poll, of the people wanting to talk about some of these things at town meeting versus doing the override first and then town meeting. So.
Well, I think that what happens when you get to the part about money, that you've got the wisdom of the head and you got the wisdom of the heart. And I think at this point, if we're gonna do the let's pretend the override didn't pass, we gotta go with the head, because we're looking at a potential bankruptcy if we can't pay our bills, because at one point, we're not gonna be able to pay the fire truck, the police truck, the highway truck, whatever, and then the state's gonna come in. So if we have to let go a position that was not funded appropriately by the federal government, then so be it, it's gotta go. So how much would that save?
Well, I mean, according to the line item of the budget, it saves zero.
Right.
No, but that's not right.
Well, but that's the number that's in there now, is zero.
But they put that number in, that number wasn't there before.
But there's the thing of getting through this year and then looking at the.
No, we said
the
terminate immediately and take that money.
We did, that's what we.
And then you don't have that recurring expense.
No, you don't, but it's kind of like, do we need to put in a line on the professional services that allows them to have human resources help?
What did we do before? What did we do before COVID?
What do they,
Well,
don't the departments take care of their own?
A lot of them do.
We had
I
a
actually got
different-
calls from a
we-
couple department heads that said that they take care of their own onboarding, their own testing, their own appointments. So I know at least two. And I also know that Nelson told me that nobody does insurance check. If you remember that part, remember he said it was too disruptive? When I asked if someone was, what did she call it? I'm checking the vendors to see what better pricing we can get.
Oh, yeah.
Remember,
Yeah.
he said, no, it's too disruptive, let's do it.
Oh, yeah, he did say
And I
that.
believe-
That's what I said, but I've worked for companies
What do you
where they
mean by
change it every
disruptive?
year.
Every year they change it.
What do you mean too disruptive?
Well, that was his word, not mine. trust me.
What
Yeah.
does he mean?
In other
It means
words,
they don't wanna do it.
they don't wanna go out annually to bid for the
Yeah,
health
$2 million.
insurance and life insurance. A lot of companies will go out and rebid and get a lower price. And he said, oh, no, we don't do that because it's too disruptive. And I said, what do you mean? He said, well, you might have to change doctors. And I said, well.
Okay, so
there were many
where
years
does
I
that
had
come
to
into
change
into these
doctors.
sheets?
The project,
I mean, that's where, you know what I'm saying?
my doctor retired.
Where does that come into these sheets?
They gave me a
I-
temporary.
I'm not disbelieving you, I'm just trying to.
In the line item that they have in there
And
now,
so
the
when I
ARPA
went down
19,000
And
in the
to
revenues.
see somebody,
Don has it.
somebody I knew, I talked to, a really great doctor.
John.
So if there's
Can you
a
show me
zero,
where the ARPA funds are on your?
Yeah, no, that's,
So when you're in the same network, yeah.
the 2
The
million.
problem is all the $2 million in ARPA is not anywhere on our website or anywhere for anyone to see.
I know this, I couldn't find it, it's supposed to be a project sheet. Available, and then I went,
And that's not the Board of Selectmen's fault.
Yeah.
Can't give them that.
I know the sheet was.
It's somebody's fault, but
it's kind of like I had access to it before when I couldn't find the most recent copy of it.
so Dave,
What?
you're saying that's a zero line. Does that mean the girl doesn't make any money?
It's paid by opera.
It's paid somewhere else and doesn't,
You never should have been hired.
I'm not arguing that point at all.
Right,
Not arguing.
You're saying the money's not in the budget.
I'm saying, how does that help us balance this, where the $2 million number doesn't change and the zero number doesn't change?
Oh, we can't
Nothing
bring it in
changes.
as revenue?
But she's getting paid out of ARPA
Yes.
funds now. It will
Yeah.
be continue to be paid out of ARPA funds for FY 26.
I
So
understand
if
that,
she's terminated June 30th,
yeah,
take that ARPA money for FY 26, it reallocated.
Yeah.
So you're saying that number goes from 2 million to 2,140,000?
No,
I mean,
it's just-
no.
It's just like
It's
the
2 million,
19.
but 80 of it is for a salary for next year. You're gonna take that 80
Okay,
and move it.
but that
somewhere else.
80 salary is not in the number that you came up with,
Correct.
29,420.
Correct.
So
But
it
what you're
doesn't-
saying is take the 80 and say, throw it to the town administrator and reduce him to 49. That's
Correct.
what you're reallocating the.
I guess,
If you're looking at a number and we say 80,000.
you're saying you can reduce another line item by 80. That's
Right.
what you're saying. If you say I'm eliminating that position
So now we have 80.
from
And save
zero,
on benefits.
I can now,
And then you save on the benefits too.
Which are $30,000, is that what you got?
And then you're gonna save in FY
That's
27.
$100,000 right there.
You won't have that position.
Yeah,
that
no,
we don't have- That we don't have the money to fund.
Okay, there's.
Yeah, no, I get all that.
350,000. How much do we need? 600,000? All right.
What every,
Oh.
it keeps adding up is to, when we make cuts there, I mean, you get, we show a bigger number, but it is shrinking.
That's good, isn't that what we're supposed to do? Shrink it? No,
Excuse me, sorry, I have the ARPA account in front of me, if I can help at all. It appears there's $98,797 left in there that is available to be allocated for salaries, and whether it was to HR or to another position. The easiest way to do it is to allocate it to police salaries, because there's already an existing project, number 18. And then have the police department reduce their budget by the same amount. And then that would free up just about $100,000 that could come off of that override as well.
This year, what about next year?
Right, then we'll have to plan for it.
Next year, the position won't be there for HR, but hopefully, I mean, I know that a lot of us are really optimistically hopeful about the school funding changes for next year, for fiscal 27, but for 26, we could utilize that more effectively. I looked up in our budget book from the last one I saw was 2020. The 4 towns named as our peers, Ayer, Lancaster, Lunenburg, and Pepperell. I just looked up what they did, and Ayer doesn't have any HR. They have a payroll person. Lancaster, the town administrator, does the HR. The treasurer collector does payroll. Lunenburg, the assistant town administrator, does HR, and there's a payroll person. And we know Pepperell does have an HR director. Their collector treasurer still does their payroll. I know our payroll is showing as being handled by the accounting. So it just seems like a place that we're spending that a lot of our peer towns don't.
I think that's important for the town people to know. I think it's very important.
And I have a hard time with wherever we're deducting the money from, as we get into next year, we have to look and see, are we gonna hurt somebody else's budget by not having their money funded? Like if you did it to a police officer, would we be able to fund a police officer next year?
I don't think that's apples to apples though. We're talking about money that was allocated until 2025.
It is, but what I'm saying is, are we gonna have the money in the budget next year to fully fund that position we're decreasing the amount of this year?
Well,
Right,
someone,
26.
either the Board of Selectmen or the Finance Committee has got to be a vigilant body all year to make sure that doesn't happen.
Right.
Which
I
is
mean,
a
no, you
temporary
can't just sit
Band-Aid,
back and wait
it's
until
not
January.
fixed, correct?
That's what, yeah, that's.
Okay, well, that at least solves some of our difficulties
Right,
a little too.
it gets FY 26, but we gotta make sure. FY
And then we try to
27
start
is-
working on.
You're saying another person will get cut next year?
No, no, in fairness, keeping the HR person, it's also a temporary Band-Aid because we'll be out of these ARPA funds and have to absorb that cost next year. So this is just utilizing the funds better for fiscal 26 and moving forward. I don't think it's meant to say there would be a cut the following year. This could actually go to any salaries. I picked the police ones simply because they've had ARPA funding in the past. The issue is that we have a select board policy that gives our select board full authority over how these ARPA funds are allocated and reallocated. And I really had to dig through minutes available to figure out where this money was even actually going based on the sheet in front of me looking different than the minutes and where the money actually went. And I'm still waiting for some documents to clarify that. But I just wanted to clarify, it doesn't have to go to police, but it can go to any salaries.
Right, and the other salaries that it was paying was council on aging, firefighter. There were other salaries that were paid by ARPA funds.
Oh,
over the
really?
years. Yes.
Oh, that one girl's gone, right?
The wellness coordinator.
Yeah,
Well,
so we don't want
it's-
to talk about her.
But is it the kitchen help that they just
There
let
was-
go on
that
ARPA
was-
funds?
There was that, yeah, it's kind of like, and that's why I say, I mean, there were other positions funded.
So they already
funded by
let
ARPA
somebody
and
go
used the ARPA
That's
money.
on ARPA, I
Yeah.
think, at the senior
Well,
center.
we're
I think. So what do we have a problem with letting the HR person go?
Right, why
But
discriminate?
it's-
Yeah.
When those people were hired, they were told it was ARPA.
I hope. I hope.
We don't know.
I
We don't
wasn't,
know.
yeah,
That doesn't mean it's a guaranteed position.
Fine.
Just as you're looking at numbers, if you are looking at that number, like I said, Don and I both have different numbers, both from the town, but the numbers are just a little bit off.
Yeah.
But it's around that, that's why I say plus or minus, but there is the unknown amount for the insurances. And that is a
Right.
savings on the insurance line.
right, yeah,
So it's
Added to the
significant.
100,000? Or
no,
included in
I'd say
100,000?
No,
that
over and
would be the total salary.
Over and above the 100,000.
Correct.
So do you think it's around 25? I'm trying to do an addition.
It's a rough number for,
So we used 25, so now we're up to 375. Okay.
And the rough part is we've been paying for those two positions out of the levy, if indeed they took that.
Yeah.
For the length of it, so that is money that could have been paying for something else.
Right.
Well,
it
people
was,
should know,
what's it?
Thanks.
it has nothing to do with the people in the positions, just process.
Okay, so, all right, so there you go. We've got 375,000. We need another 225. Feel like I'm in an auction.
Kind of,
What else? Okay, I'll say it. What about recreation, changing, modifying the way it's done?
What about having her paid out of revolving funds that she makes from the whatever?
Well, obviously, she doesn't make that much money because before she came, it was self-funding department.
It's supposed to be self-funding.
What, I know.
But her salary is not.
But she, see, that's oxymoron. It's either self-funding or it's not.
Yeah.
So when she became the director, she somehow, she wasn't able to make what she was, she couldn't self-fund the department and pay herself. So she asked the town for help and she became an employee of the town.
Okay,
That's the long and short of it.
okay.
So, okay, so that's fine, but I don't think she runs it for, help me here.
I don't know what she does, so I can't help you.
Well, she has a daycare program before and after school,
Yeah,
and she runs a summer program in the summer
yeah,
for 8 weeks,
yeah.
which I think is mandatory for any town. They should have a
Yeah.
summer program. So in the interim, she does this, that, and the other thing. She does a babysitting class. She registers for the Mount Wachusett Ski Club.
Yeah,
She
but
has an egg
that can't be a 40-hour week.
Well, I see, I don't know. You know, I put in a request for, the revenue coming in and what was going out. But,
Okay.
so, solution, all right? I found out, and I don't know if everybody knows this, that the Spalding Memorial Daycare before and after is private, not public. It has nothing to do with the school. It's a private thing.
Okay.
So why wouldn't she be able to get that contract and work her program out of there, get more kids, make more money, and maybe self-sustain itself. I mean, that's just a potential solution.
Okay.
Or put it part-time and just have the summer program. I mean, I think there's wiggle room there in that department. That's what I'm saying. Without banishing it to the.
Yeah, to the.
Can I get perspective on all of it? So when I look at resources across the ages within our community, I think all of our folks, whether it be recreation, library, or senior, are doing an outstanding job. Recreation has a little building out here and one staff person raising money to pay for the staff. I don't know that there's the same access to like earmark funds, to call it that, probably an improper term, but that the library gets revenue, flow through money. There's like from our state, they get money coming in. There's the Friends of the Library, there's the Friends of the Senior, and there's multiple people at the senior center. They don't get these revenues. So I think that in its totality, that might be something that gets looked at overall, fees for out of town people. For the senior center, I know there's some fee out of state. I don't know if there's in-town fees, and not that I want seniors to have to pay, but I don't like that the kids have to pay either. But there is a vast difference between the amount of staff that we have for young people and the amount that we have for seniors, to just try to figure out where that balance might be, and maybe try to figure out opportunities for recreation to have more access to facilities that they could run additional programs out of too. Because if you only have that little building, there's not a lot of programming that you can run out of there. But we do have other municipal facilities that might, and I haven't talked to recreation about this, but it might be a good overall like strategic planning discussion of what could be possible with more space.
So they do have a recreation commission. So what do they do? What is the recreation commission role?
I guess it's like us, or no, it's like the HCC. Yeah. It's supposed to solve problems, they're supposed to.
But they don't do any fundraising or anything, or? I mean,
I don't know, I don't see it, but maybe they do. No.
They do fundraise. They're doing an Easter egg thing right now.
Well, she said that was
where they will put Easter eggs out for a hunt for your family. So there is fun.
It's not fundraising, it's a program.
It's a program.
She told us it was a program, not a fundraiser.
So the revenues will go into the revolving fund.
Right. I mean, I think that, okay, let me put it this way, because I see that it's controversial. I think we should take a hard look at recreation and look at options and look at what, we should find out how much is coming in, what's going out, where is it going out? Are there other options? Say, Mike, this is about the town, not about one person.
We've been talking cuts, why not other opportunities for revenue increases anywhere?
You mean, you mean as opposed?
Right.
Well, isn't that a great idea? I like that. The other side of the glass, yeah.
So you said.
I mean, it's really what Kim was saying is there's other opportunities out there to increase the revenues that the town's getting.
Oh, but she had specific on.
Well, she was talking recreation, but senior center came up too, it's kind of like the.
Without raising taxes, you're saying?
Without raising taxes, fees.
What about the meeting hall there that's in the middle between the library and the? That belongs, that's the town.
I know, the library does, especially during school vacation now, because my bingo class is canceled because the libraries has all these, the kids for spring break,
yeah.
So they're basically taking over the whole, with the kids' activities.
So
they'll fill up the whole.
Wouldn't that be a really great opportunity for recreation to have that space?
Yes, that would be a very good, yeah.
But the library's doing it with all the
It
kids.
should for free when they have paid staff.
Yeah.
So I just think it's a bigger, because I've been, looking at all different things in our community. that when there's services that are for free, which is great, and there's paid staff that don't get paid out of revolving funds, and the Friends do a great job. And the library does a tremendous job, and the senior center does a tremendous job, as does rec. All three of them are doing a great job, but they're really independent. And is there a way to look at them as like a unit that might create more sustainability long term? Because this budget crisis is not going away tomorrow. And what are other opportunities? And have you been, the ability to, through the Historic Society, write a grant that connects with kids, that's recreation based, or to connect with seniors, that's program based. Like, can there be that leveraging if everybody gets their minds together? Because in our budget, even a delta of $20,000 to $50,000 makes a difference. So I do think there's opportunities for the community.
Yeah, I think we should look, somebody should look at that. I mean, that's not our job, but
No, but if we come up with ideas, we can pass them to Board of Selectmen so that we can think about them for the joint meeting next week. Because we've all been looking at what the budget is, what the override is. Now we're talking about what happens if the override fails.
well, I mean, that's a reality. We've been hearing that since we first got the meetings. What's gonna happen? We're gonna have another, we have to have two budgets. We haven't seen the first budget yet, so we'll probably never see the second one, and it will not
So,
pass, and we won't know.
But we just.
And then we will meet again.
We started with a first, and I can copy Nelson on it. I mean, very simply, it's deleting, subtracting the amount of the solid waste line and taking out the revenue associated with the program.
So you know what, okay, so that's a good thing. You're saying we should look at more revenue,
That's a
how we're gonna,
possibility.
no, and I like that, because it's a positive thing. But shouldn't we, in that case, have an economic development board?
It was recommended in the master plan.
I was gonna say that was.
Yeah.
Master plan.
Yeah.
It was, it's
Oh,
kind of like,
okay.
or an ombudsman.
So we
Yeah.
already talked about that. and nothing
Well, we
happened.
haven't, we haven't, but if you're gonna do that, it's a position that requires funding, it requires a salary.
An economic development committee?
Committee.
Committee versus,
No, not a job, no, we're not creating new jobs.
How much
No
do
new
you pay?
jobs.
We
We're
should
not
give them the
paying-
same amount.
Great.
oh, you haven't heard? I get the stipend in the.
Yeah.
Oh, then you can turn it into
Yeah,
a
I
stipend after
Yeah.
2 years.
Yeah.
That's been done. So is that a recommendation? I mean, solution, if we're looking for solutions here.
Right, we're looking for solutions to the budget, and that's, it's kind of like. But I don't know that you'd be able to get an economic committee on board to help with the FY 26 budget, but maybe the FY 27 is gonna take some time to,
Right, I mean,
it's
right,
gonna,
Rome wasn't built in a day, I get it,
Yeah.
but if we don't start, it will never happen.
Right.
That's my fear.
Starting after May 5th, 4th, whatever it is. Whatever happens, we'll probably continue to be working on this because something's gonna go wrong and everything's gonna be into the May and June. But sometime, at one point or another, we'll get, actually by the 1st of July, I think it is, we've got to have it done regardless of what happens. Because that's when we need the new money to pay the stuff. I don't see why we can't continue to do what we're doing now on July Tuesday and the next Tuesday and the next Tuesday to try to answer these questions, try to ask the questions, try to figure out the stuff before Christmas comes.
I agree with you 1,000,000%, that it's proactive works, reactive is
You're
not
asking for another
working.
board,
Yeah.
this is the first time in, since I've been on the board, that all the seats have been filled this year.
Tell us how great we are.
I already said that, I don't say it twice.
I was gonna say, tell her again, because she's up in,
Yeah, I'll be out of here in
You can't
60
leave,
days.
you can't leave,
We'll see.
So, yeah.
you
good terms.
can't leave, you're doing a great
Yeah, no,
job.
When is it, March 3rd, when is it, June
I think
30th?
you're 2026.
I'm only interim, I just took something to place because.
We'll keep it, you're doing a great job.
It's not my decision.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
John
it can be
Darren's.
your decision the next time.
John Barrett, Minuteman.
Okay, try to fire me once.
You should join the Minuteman. Oh, your wife, she was gonna do the horse.
No.
She's got somebody else doing
No,
it.
I'm gonna do it.
You know how many horses you have to have for this area?
All right, let's find another 275,000.
And
Let's
sell a
raise, all
horse?
right, can we raise it? What can we do? Without raising taxes.
Well, it's after 9 o'clock
All right,
tonight.
let's go home and think about it.
I have one more idea if you want to hear it.
Okay.
Or one more idea for tonight. How's that? I do have a list because I have been trying to find some things to help. Do we know which positions in our current budget that is proposed are currently not filled?
We know some of them, right, Don?
I think the only one that is posted right now was the animal inspector.
The
Not
animal
Bill?
inspector?
Animal.
Yeah.
I saw that was posted,
Yeah.
but is land, like I thought the land use position, I know Veronica had brought up at one of the select board meetings, and I thought it was a really thoughtful suggestion that, there are 3 other people who maybe could for now absorb those duties to not fill that position. And if that's the case, we probably shouldn't be carrying them in our budget. Drop
Yeah,
them
I
to $1
talked to
so
that,
they don't
Dawn.
go away.
Can I talk
Yes.
to that, Dawn? It's
Yes, go ahead.
Veronica.
Yeah.
Land use we are not filling land use. And if you look at the omnibus budget on the land use line, what we did is we put 30K in there because there are things like the stormwater report for the town. Not only do people that develop in town have to provide a stormwater plan, but the town also has a stormwater plan for the town that has to be reported on annually. And typically the land use coordinator does that. So we do need some land use coordinator consulting. So we put 30,000 in for a consultant. That is the one place that if we have the 640K that we actually need, looking at the omnibus budget as it is, we can drop that by 15K to get down to the 625, which is the reason for the 625. We would like to keep the land use in there, but if in the end, after we get all the final numbers for everything like audits and CBIZ for accounting, et cetera, and now, I have to look at how the water enterprise number came in. That was a collaboration between Nelson and Dave. So, but anyway, we have a little bit of play there. If the override doesn't pass, I do know that there are 2 other positions that will probably be empty in the next fiscal year, that they will not be filled. That's the first place we'll go before we cut staff. So there are a few things that we can do there. And yeah, so everything has to be collective bargained. But if we have positions that we don't fill, that is okay. Doesn't have to be okayed by the board. That's a reserved management right. So anyway. So yes, that's a good suggestion, and it is one that we will incorporate. And we will have not necessarily a budget. We will have a plan for if the override doesn't fail. And we are looking at all those things. So.
So is the FinCom gonna be included in knowing what those plans are or not?
I'd say it should be.
You'll know before town meeting. You will know before town meeting. These are all collective bargaining things. I expect we're going to have executive sessions in all our meetings through the time of the vote. And then the collective bargaining will happen if the override fails. For the other positions, we can't do, it's our calculation is not the 402 that you have up on the screen, but 387. is what I'm looking at. So I'm not exactly sure what you were doing, mucking with those numbers to get 402. I know it was taking out the trash, and the first thing that goes is the trash. So that's 325 plus 62K in my mind. So we have to come up with 387. And we do have a plan, but unless things are collective bargained, we can't really talk about it. So,
I don't know, what happened? How did it get to be 387 from 4?
well, I do it, probably it's because you used the 640 number. So we can lower this by 15, and I'll bet we'll get to the 387. That's the number that I'm working with, that we're looking at. So if you subtract, what's the difference there? Is that 15? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the 15K. So the amount that we have on the land use line will change to 15, and will get put under consulting, because if we're not hiring the position, it has to be 0 on the budget
Oh, God.
details, but they'll get there.
0 on the budget.
Yeah, so, yeah, I had subtracted the 780 that was in the omnibus.
Yeah. I see what you did now.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's the number is 387. So
Well, I got 375, so we need 11,
Yeah, it's,
$20,000. And we
All
had.
right, I make a motion to adjourn tonight.
I'll second that.
thank you, Dave.
918.
That's okay. I don't care who says it, as long as I say, he asked who's for it, and I say,
Okay,
aye.
I'm sorry, yeah, it's kind of like, so we had a motion and to adjourn second, roll call vote.
Dave Walker, yes?
Sam Grant, yes?
Mary Jane Churchville, yes.
Carol Mazik, yes.
Your house is yes.
John Hayes, yes, unanimous, stands adjourned.